first podcast I did with this guy, it was too short. They wanted to hear more, you know, and I tried to get this guy back on, but he's a very busy man. You know, he's busy writing his very controversial, somewhat aggravating reviews. You know, he gets so much flame, and I think it's time that we get him back on the mic to clear up a lot of things and to catch up with him in general. I want to find out what he's been up to, what he's doing, and you know, you guys missed him, so now we have him back. So without further ado, we bring back the man with over, well, close to 700 reviews now.
800
now, jeez, it's only been 6 months. Okay. Roriconfan, welcome back to Dreamcast, man.
Glad to be back, Don. Hey world, this is part 2 of my podcasts, and hopefully many more to come. So here I am back again because you wanted more. So here's the sequel, extended with all the director's cut and stuff inside. And this time we're gonna get even deeper and deeper into more important things that bother me. And just because it's gonna be about nerd rage, it's gonna be a lot more fun. Plus, this time I came with a checklist. So I'm not gonna miss anything important. Like I have like 50 things I'm gonna say right in front of me, like in this list I have in front of me. And thus, we're gonna have such a nice little discussion about many things that bother me, and you kept on asking me why was I banned or why don't I make my own blog spot on something. So Don, here we are, ready to get a little flamey on the internet.
All right, let's get straight into it then.
Yes.
First of all, man, how you been, Roricon? What you been up to?
What I've been doing. First of all, I had a small part job here in my country, and because of all the crisis, I lost even that one. So now I used to be earning a small allowance here and then, but now I'm not earning nothing. I'm just living off the rents since we are renting every store we have that we're used to working. And technically I'm a NEET of sorts, since all I'm doing is watching anime, writing about anime, and flaming other people.
No. What is a NEET? For the people who don't know what a NEET is, people should know, but some people don't know. What is a NEET, Roricon?
Well, there's the good side and the bad side. The bad side of a NEET is somebody who is not working, who is not going in any sort of school, and who's not educating anybody here or there. So technically, I'm not a NEET, I'm a NEE. Since I am training people, I am teaching you here on the podcast about how to be a better reviewer, god damn you. So
all right, so to clarify, the acronym it's an acronym for Not in Education, Employment or Training, NEET. That's what NEET stands for. You hear it a lot in anime. It's
the worst thing that can happen if you're Japanese, because you end up like those weird otakus, closed doors and shut-ins and just watching anime all day and then buying figurines or sending their parents to buy those figurines so they won't have to leave their room or something. It's a thing that happens mostly in Japan, and have a hikikomori version about it. They call it hikikomori in their own version, which is like the shut-in, the antisocial who doesn't want to talk with everybody. And N.H.K made a nice presentation of the whole problem.
Yep, welcome to the N.H.K. That's right, yep.
And it's practically the only one who was being rather truthful about it. Some was going to say, whoa, it's like Rori no Imuto? No. Or perhaps like Boku wa Tomodachi? No, those things are fun catering. It's only N.H.K. That was the only anime that showed it from its dark perspective and was really honest about it. It was telling you to don't do that. Everybody says like, ooh, being a NEET is fun because you have all these chicks all around you and you play aero games. Ooh, no. NHK, guys, nothing else.
Well, do you mean virtual chicks? Because I don't know if a broke person that ain't got a job or education is getting chicks. They're getting virtual chicks, playing them hentai games, visual novels and shit.
Yes,
so, no.
escapism and shit. But the anime is going to say, no, you're not just playing about virtual chicks. You also have virtual chicks coming out of your screen in your everyday life. You become a harem lead or something, which is a lie because NEETs are the most ugly, antisocial people we don't want to talk about it. They get angry very easily and all that stuff. So no, it's not like what you see in anime. And even NHK was being rather soft about it. So this is that's going to clarify. And I'm a NEE, not a NEET, since I am people.
There's no T there, just the NEE. That's what you're saying.
NEE. So
all right. So let's quickly move on. You're still writing the anime reviews. That's what you do. That's your thing. That's your love. You love writing anime reviews and manga reviews as well.
Yes, I'm also reviewing movie reviews and book reviews. I even started doing that.
Okay, so where do you do that? Well, obviously, I don't know where I don't look for those reviews, and probably the audience listening aren't maybe not into those mediums. But anyway, just so you know, where do you post them books and movie reviews?
Okay, just in case you read all my 800 reviews so far and you want even more, supposed, I am making book reviews on Goodreads, which is basically the best database I could find about books. Maybe there's another one better, but that's the only one I found. So you can find my book reviews, most of which are about my manga reviews, Redux and stuff, since they technically also count as books. And I'm making movie reviews on Rate Your Music. So even if you go there, most of them are going to be about my anime movies because it's the same thing, but I also make about live action, which is not the same as anime movies. And I'm being more liberal about it. I'm not having these categories where I score things and say this and that and this and that, because it's a lot more complicating to be analytical about books or movies, because you are supposed to be mentioning the actors and how well they played and who was the director and stuff. I'm not focusing too much on them, so they tend to be much less analytical, and they don't have the scoring system. It's like random ideas I have and how I felt about it. And yes, I end up keep on comparing it to older movies and saying, that movie from 20 years ago was even better and stuff. I usually do that too. So they are not as descriptive as my anime reviews, because I don't have that much experience and it's not exactly the same thing. So, if you read those, it's going to be a bit less analytical and a bit less explanatory and all that stuff.
Well, you know what? It's nice to see that you're doing something different. You don't just do one thing, because, it's good to dabble your hands in different things.
Sure, but it's not like I had an option. I ran out of anime titles, so I had to do something else. And here we are, books and movies. This will keep me occupied for, 5 years. There's so many of them.
So I guess you're just you're addicted to writing then. Is that what you're saying? You're addicted to writing and you need to just keep constantly writing. All right. Exactly. That's not bad. So just off topic slightly, how do you feel about audiobooks? Because I'm a big fan of audiobooks.
Oh, I tried to listen to a few audiobooks when I was younger, and the latest one I listened to was actually the first book of Erlich of Merlibone on audio, because I missed it. And I say that the problem with audio is that you cannot exactly listen to it everywhere. You're supposed to be alone in your house and having an entire computer in front of you or something. But when you're reading a book, you can just stop and continue anywhere you like, and it's
That's interesting, because I feel totally the opposite. I've been I guess it depends on what you're using to listen to. Obviously, you're saying that you might be stuck on your computer, but I have an iPod and an iPad, and
I don't have an iPod. That's the whole thing.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it's just I guess it's just a matter of the device you have to carry the medium. But yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm able to multitask while I'm listening to audiobooks, and recently I've been listening to the Hunger Games. I listened to the trilogy, and that was pretty excellent, actually.
I never tried those books yet. Maybe one day. But I do admit that audiobooks tend to help you notice a few things easier, because when you start to get bored while reading, you tend to jump a few things. But you have the reader using his voice and pointing out a few things and having perhaps some background music, say, whoa, that sounds nice.
Yeah, and you also get to hear from the author. Usually at the end of the audiobook, the author tells you how they came to write the book and their ideas and philosophy. And so it's kind of interesting anyway. But I know I'm totally digressing, viewers, but, we're just giving you a lot of information about different things. Let's get back to the anime and manga stuff before we confirm. So, man, let's just get to the core. Let's start off this podcast properly, man. When I first met you, it was on myanimelist.net, yeah?
Yeah.
And I noticed you had a lot of reviews on there.
Not as many as now, but yes.
All of a sudden, I noticed that you stopped reviewing on Mal, and I thought, this is strange. Why has he stopped? Then I realized that it wasn't of your own free will, that you were banned. And because I had your account on Skype, you talk on and off, I obviously asked you what happened. And a lot of people are wondering what happened. So give us the break. How many times have you been banned off Mal in particular?
9.
9 times?
Yes, I counted them. And they were supposed to be lenient with me, so it should be 3, and they went for 9, and I couldn't fix myself being a good boy, so that's it, man. They say no more, forget it.
So how does this happen anyway? How do you end up getting banned from Mal? Because I know it's not just Mal, but I'm focusing on Mal because a lot of people, Mal is one of the most popular anime review sites right now because of the functionality. And I just want to focus on Mal for now, but we'll talk about other sites later. So how did you get banned from Mal so many times? What caused it?
It's pretty much the same reason which caused me to get banned from other sites as well. I tend to want to comment on something which I don't like. Or if I agree with something, I have nothing to say about it. But when I disagree with something, I cannot hold myself. So I jump in and say, that part doesn't sound right to me. And this part needs to be clarified. And are you crazy? What the hell are you writing over that? You stupid. Oh, sorry for that. So I get very easily passionate about some things. And I usually cannot hold myself back when I read something which sounds like vertically wrong, like, oh, this is not happening. I mean, how does he do that? How much of an idiot is he? And things that sound like they're common sense for others, because I'm tend to think about it in a deeper way. What sounds okay or just like a light thing for others, for me it's very complicating. So I just jump in and say, what are you talking about? This is not right. Think about it like this and that and the other. And the problem is that most users on any site are not exactly 25 years old and above like me, and they are not willing to discuss something in negative tone. If someone comes in and says, hey, man, I agree with you, and say, oh, thank you very much, that's fine, because you agree with them. When you say, you know what, I don't agree with you, and many people who are usually very young, like 12 years old, up to 20 years old, they are not ready to have this, I wouldn't call it a flame war, I was just going to say a constructive dialogue around their opinions. Oh, how much I hate this word. I'm going to go back to that stupid word which I call opinion. It's like the same thing as saying a dogma. So I go in and I tell them, this part is not right. I should be saying it like in a more polite way, like this little thing over here is not exactly right because this and that and the other. And most of them, they do not want to be criticized for anything they say or do. They take that really negatively. And when they say, I don't want to know, and I keep on pressing them because, well, I cannot hold myself and I cannot stop myself if somebody else doesn't stop me on my tracks. They think I'm harassing them and I'm trolling.
So basically you end up getting reported. They report you to the administrator.
Yes, for harassment or trolling or flaming or whatever you call it.
And then that's how you end up getting banned.
Yes, usually for no reason. I'm pushy, but I don't want to think that I'm actually trolling or flaming or harassing anyone. It's just that I'm seeing the whole thing like an insult to the medium, and they think it's an insult to themselves.
Let me be an observer. Let me tell you what I've observed, because I've seen this play out with you and another user. Basically, I'm playing devil's advocate here. So basically, this is what I see. Let's just say someone says, what could I use an example? Naruto is the best anime of all time. They gave it straight 10s. And they would say something like, I love the characters, I love the storyline, everything was great, 10, 10, 10, 10. Then you would come in and say, I don't understand why you would say the characters are great when so.
Yes.
Then they would be like, oh, why'd you say that? Oh, you don't understand why you want my views. And then I think the thing with you is you're kind of persistent. You don't just leave one comment. You go back and forth, and the people feels like, I wouldn't say that you're harassing them, but they feel like you won't let it go until they've explained themselves, and that's when they report you.
Yes, and technically speaking, it's because I cannot possibly imagine a show like Naruto getting a 9 or a 10, whereas a show like Legend of Galactic Heroes or Death Note or Code Geass or anyway, technically any show overall better in quality than Naruto getting the same or slightly higher score. So imagine Naruto getting a 9 and Legend of Galactic Heroes getting a 10. What does that mean? That like Naruto is only 10% worse than Galactic Heroes? No, man, it's like 1,000 times worse. You should get a 4 or a 3 or a 5, just being lenient about it. So I've seen some saying giving a 10. What are you doing? Why is this a 10? This cannot possibly be a 10.
Let me ask you. This is what perplexes me. You get banned, and then they lift the ban. How long does the bans actually last when they ban you?
Oh, it's the same thing in all sites. You get banned so many times, you figure out there's a formula. It starts by 3 days, then it moves upwards to 1 week, 3 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, and eventually it's supposed to be permanent banned, depending on the mods of that site.
The last time I spoke to you, which was like around November, December, you got banned, and you said it was permanently. But then I saw that they lifted the ban.
Yes.
And then they banned you again. So what was that about? I thought you were permanently banned. How did you get reinstated then? And then they rebanned. What happened there?
I'm not sure about that, but I think it has to do with the system. If you're supposed to be permabanned, they are supposed to delete your whole account. But they didn't delete my account because I had too many reviews, so the system reintroduces you inside every 3 months. And they're supposed to ban you again every 3 months, because if you're not permabanned, it allows you to get it in the maximum non-permanent ban allowed, so it's probably going to be 3 months. So in 3 months again, I'll be unbanned until they figure it out and ban me all over again.
But you have spoken to the administrators through MIRC. You spoke to them directly, right? You've actually spoken to them and asked them, why am I being banned? And you've had a dialogue with them where they've tried to explain to you categorically why they've banned you. So you know from the horse's mouth why this has happened.
Yes, they explain it to me, and from their perspective, they are not willing to keep on monitoring what the hell I'm doing with 100 users every day. Most of them don't even want chat, and most of them are not even writing something quality. And they admit themselves that, you know what, we agree with you most of the times. Most of what they're writing is bullshit. If it was up to us, we would be deleting half of the reviews on Mal, but that would drive off most of the users, and we are not willing to have you being like the police force and us running after you all the time. So it's better off either you stopping or us banning you, instead of having to deal with some possible flame war every day.
This is what I see interesting, because to me this is a bit of a business move. And the reason why I say that is because you've spoken to them directly, yeah? Yes. You said it's a system. The way they ban is like a system. They've set it in the computer that you get banned over a certain amount of time, they reban, blah, 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 fine. But they've spoken to you, they've told you they don't like this, they keep on banning you. So I would think, why haven't they deleted your account just permanently? So you don't, why don't they do that? And to me, it's a strategic move, because you've written the most reviews on Mal, right?
Yes.
Or close to it.
I'm number 2 right now, and I used to be number 3, but number 2 reviewer, the nominator, all of a sudden decided that anime suck and my life is terrible. So she deleted all her reviews, and suppose she feels like committing suicide. I had no idea what happens to her afterwards. So all of a sudden I'm number 2, because what used to be number 2 reviewer, the nominator, gave up and deleted everything and left Mal. Who knows?
And that's the interesting thing. You're number 2. They've banned you multiple times, but they haven't deleted your account. And to me, they won't do it, because and they want to have their cake and they want to eat it too. They don't want to delete your reviews, but they don't want you to aggravate the users. So all they can do is ban you. If they delete your reviews, I mean, like we said in the beginning, most anime reviews or anime sites are very slanted. People only review what they love. If they don't like it, they don't feel a need to review it. You are more objective. You review all anime, whether you like it or not. And if they deleted your account, they would lose a big majority of what I would call a balance in my mind. So I don't think they will delete your account, because it's in their benefit, to be perfectly honest with you. They just won't do it. And if they're listening to this now, they might think I'm trying to out them, but it's just good business to keep you there. That's the way I see it.
Yes, and even if you think about it, even if I am permanently banned from there, people are still commenting on my profile, and I still have a few guys I'm talking here on Skype who are replying for me, even if I am banned. So yes. It's like I'm banned, but at the same time I'm not banned. The only thing I cannot add is more reviews, which they can read anyway if they just move to Anime Planet or AniDB. I am also on those sites, and I'm not banned from there yet. So, it's not like I'm out of the way permanently. They didn't exactly stop me from doing anything. It's just that I cannot voice my voice on a very loud volume. That's it.
All right, I was gonna leave this bit to last, but I might as well ask now. Me and you spoke about a month ago, and I was saying to you after you got banned that a lot of us that follow your reviews are getting kind of fed up because you got reviews all over the place. I don't know all the sites where your reviews are. You know, only from speaking to you, you're telling me you're on Anime Planet now and all this other stuff. I was saying to you, you need to have your own website, yeah? Because it would just be easier for people who want to read your stuff. And I want to, obviously, you said you don't want to do that, and a lot of people probably feel the same way, that you should have your own site. A lot of lesser people that are way less constructed than you have anime review sites, and you have over 600 reviews, and a lot of people are using your reviews to make their sites better, whether they know it or not, or whether it's intentional or not. So why don't you have your own blog where you just have your reviews, so you can always, a central hub so people know where to see your reviews? Why don't you have that right now?
As I tried to explain to you as well, the problem is that most of what I have written has to do with anime. And anime is not for everybody. It's for a very niche audience. So having my own blog, which is supposed to be about a more general image, not just about anime or a few movies and a few random thoughts I have here and there, it will feel very polarizing. It will say, okay, why isn't this guy part of some anime site and makes his own blog site instead of going for all this trouble? And I have reached the point where I have distributed all my reviews in so many places and so many sites. So I don't see what will I gain by having a blog, my own blog, where I will just have the same things mentioned in there. And I don't think many other people who are not into anime will just come in and say, this guy's like interesting, because most of what I have written are things you can find elsewhere, or about a subject that somebody who's not into anime will not even be interested in being part of it. And it's true that right now the latest site I'm in is Anime Planet, and its system while writing reviews is very close to what blogs are. It looks like you're having this main page, and under it are like the comment sections. This is not the same as in AniDB or in OnMal. On AniDB, they can comment on them, but nobody else can see those comments. They're hidden from public view. Only the reviewer can see them, so it's not the same. And on Mal, they don't even have a comment section. You just go on his profile. And
that's true.
And this is like the worst thing that can possibly happen, because I'm not commenting on his profile. I'm commenting on his attitude, or his personality, on his opinion. Oh, God, this word. So, as you understand, there's no reason to do that, since I have already distributed all my thoughts, and most of them are about a very niche audience.
All right, well, let me just give you my 2 pence. You already know what I think, because when you said this, I got kind of passionate, because, I hate to see someone with so much talent and someone that's doing something so different from what everyone else is doing, limiting themselves to the whims of other sites, which in my opinion is what you're doing, because you're letting other people control where you post, what you post. You're kind of handing that power over to them and making their sites better, where if you had your own blog, not only could you benefit from it financially on one way, but it would be easier for your fans, whether you know you have fans or not. You do have a lot of followers, as you can see on your Mal, people still posting. It would just be easier for them. But at the end of the day, what I will say is, I'll leave this to the fans. I think there's multiple benefits for you having your own hub. There's so many build it yourself, WordPress, Flickr, no, not Flickr, Tumblr, and all these other sites to do it for you. But obviously, me and you already got into this. It turned into a little bit of an argument, but all I will say is, I feel it's going to be inevitable that you're going to end up just having your own, even if it was just a blog that you don't even allow people to comment, just to post your stuff. I understand what you're saying. I don't agree with it though, but I just think it would benefit yourself and the fans if you had your own blog site. And you know what, people? I'm putting it out there to his fans. If you agree with what I'm saying, let him know, because I think we can persuade him. If there was like 1,000 people telling him have your own site, then But at the end of the day, it's just me again. It's my opinion. That's my personal opinion. Anyway, I think you're very good at what you do. I think I think that you provide a different perspective, which a lot of people agree with, and the majority don't. And yeah, anime is very niche, like you said. And maybe if you did want a website, it's hard. It's hard. Even me running this project, it's very, very difficult. I'm not going to say it would be easy, but you know what? I'm rambling on and on and on. I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people have thought that. I think that. And I think it's just what's going on with you. Whether people see you as a bully or not is one thing. I just think you're very particular. And I think some people have used the word elitist when they talk about you as well with reviews. But you know what? Actually, let's move on into that section now. Why don't we move on into what people think of you as a reviewer, the constant questions you're getting about your negative reviews. Why do you do this? Why do you review anime? Why do you review anime so much if you give it such a low score? Blah, 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 blah. You get so much of the same question over and over again. And before we spoke yesterday, you sent me a link because you've written a blog that just summarizes all of these questions, which I have linked already in the post of this podcast. But I want to talk to you about that as well. You know, what these questions you're getting, these constant questions about, you know, why are you so negative? Why are your ratings so average? Why, you know, what do you even like anime?
Do I? No.
You know?
Okay.
So let's address this. Let's address that.
Yes. Before I begin, I want to give more reasons of why I'm not making my own site, my own blog.
Go on.
And let me start by saying that I see myself sort of like a rebel. A rebel who's going against the mainstream and somebody who's just a free mind, a free spirit, who just jumps in, says something different and leaves. If I have my own blog, it will be like I'm the king of his own kingdom. And if I'm even being paid some sort of thing for advertising, it's like I have been sold out in a way. And it's a lot different from saying that right now this guy is like a rebel who just gives a second opinion, never gets paid for it, never gets a reward for it, and the mods can just jump in and chase him like the military of any tyrannical nation. But when he's the king of his own nation, it's like, okay, oh, so what? He's just some guy who's being paid, and he's the master of his own little hill, and he can do anything he likes. No, so what? It's a lot different to give the impression that you have authority than to just say, I don't have any authority, yet I keep on pressing it, because it gives me freedom. I haven't settled down, I haven't sold out. So it's one of the things I also use as an excuse of, or maybe eventually I will make my own blog spot in the future, of why I don't want to have my own blog. I don't want to feel like I have authority, like I have control of whatever I'm doing, complete control. So anyone who comes in, I don't want to feel like he's threatened. If he doesn't like my comment, he's going to delete it, and he's going to ban me from this place and stuff. But when I'm doing the same thing, it's like, look at this guy. I mean, he's been banned so many times, and doesn't gain anything out of it, and he keeps on going. And I know it sounds like it's some sort of a masochist thing. Like this guy likes to torture himself and being full of hatred and stuff. But it's also what makes me feel like a shonen hero. The shonen I mean, really, man, really. Although I hate most shonen, at the same time, what I'm doing is like I'm being a shonen hero. Always going against the status quo, always fighting the king and the tyrant and stuff, and always say, follow your dreams, never give up. And of course, the superhero is never rich. He's never the leader of a nation and stuff. He's the rebel. He's the one always going against the authorities. This is how I feel. And this is the funniest part. Although I don't like shonen, other people give a 10 or a 9, and I'm giving a lot less. At the same time, they don't agree that shonen are what they should be doing themselves. They never think like shonen heroes. They just go with the wave. They just follow everybody like a sheep. Oh, I like Naruto, but I do not feel like Naruto. I like Luffy, but I do not feel like acting like Luffy. Whereas me, okay, those shows are not wonderful masterpieces, but I do feel like Naruto and Luffy. And I keep on pressing on.
Of the reviewing society.
Yes. Damn you, systems of the industry and fandoms and the evils of the world who keep on giving us this crappy little anime, and I'm not gonna keep up with this stuff. I'm mad as hell. I'm not gonna give up on our dreams.
I think I can understand where you're coming from. I think You make a point. I'll give you that much. I'm not gonna argue. What you're saying makes sense on a level. So at the end of the day, yeah, okay. I guess I can accept that for now. For now, you know.
Yes.
After your 1000th review, revisit this idea. All right, man. Let's move on to your blog, man. The blog where you're addressing these issues that people have with you, you know. And when you first sent the blog to me, it was in three separate blogs. I think one was about reviewing truths. Another one was about you personally, why people think you do things a certain way. And I can't remember what the third one was about.
The third was when the internet really is serious business.
Okay. And you just you've put it into one blog, which is better for all of us, I think.
It's a triple fusion.
All right, so I'm looking at the blog right now, and I don't want to go through every single point, but we'll try to just get through it so people can actually hear you talk about these things as well. So, do you want to start at the top? Because you got reviewing truths.
Yes. So technically, you can also read it, of course, but listening to it on the run is a little bit better.
I'll ask you, because you've actually numbered this anyway. So why don't I go through the numbers with you, and off your head, you just go through what you think. Because the first, you got number 1. There is no such thing as complete objectivity.
Yes. This was meant to establish that whatever you say, you can never be 100% objective about anything. And this is exactly what pisses me off when I go and comment on somebody's review in a negative tone, and they get pissed off with me back because they do not accept any criticism. They think that their opinion is supposed to be correct, and they're supposed to be like, objectively criticizing something, when in fact they're not doing that, and there's no such thing as objectivity. On my part as well, when I review something, I cannot possibly have zero bias against something. Every time you're reviewing or commenting about something, you have a sort of bias. You like it or you don't like it, and you comment on that. There's no such thing as objectivity. And this alone is supposed to say, be open to everything. Accept everything and give out everything, and never think that what you're saying is your own objective 100% opinion about something, so it can never be disputed or whatever. That's basically what number 1 is supposed to mean.
Okay. All right, so number 2 is you are yourself when you are opinionated.
Yes, this is basically what separates the average reviewer from the special reviewer. And technically, there are many guys who just wrote down the technicals and stop right there. There are others who just say some random ramblings and end it there. But there are those who have a sort of an attitude, any sort of attitude. I know many guys besides me who keep on making these anecdotes out of anything they're making. It's really fun to read. Others are mentioning a book they read or a movie they saw, and it's like reminded them of those, and they made this comparison. Others are just presented like a fairy tale or like a poem. These things give a personal tone to any review. It makes it special. It makes it different.
So are you saying you should just be yourself?
Yes.
More.
Yes.
Put yourself in the review. Put your own personality in your reviews. Don't just write a synopsis or something.
Exactly.
Is what you're saying.
And you must do all that by being opinionated, in the sense that you're not just supposed to sit down and write this dried up image of what you think about a review. You're supposed to sit down and give your passion, give yourself, give your character inside the text. So even if people disagree with you, at least they will enjoy reading your review. This is very different, because I know many reviews which are really terrible when they're talking about the review, but they were so funny or so artistic or so lyrical while reading them, and says, this guy gave his best in this text, and I really enjoyed reading it. Maybe I don't agree with the context, but I fully agreed with the text. I liked it. And this is exactly what I think it's very important in any review. It's not just supposed to be about facts and numbers and objectivity. It's all supposed to be about the reviewer. You're pouring yourself inside the text. And in a way, you are a writer. You're not just a reviewer.
Well, I have to say, I need to say that you are a very passionate person in particular. Like I'm kind of passionate when I write. I don't like to be generic. I've got to put a little bit of myself in my writing. And a lot of people, they're scared though. When people write reviews, they want to please people. They don't just want to, they don't want to upset anyone. They want people to like them. They want people to, give that thumbs up button when you read the review. So some people are trying to play it safe. That's why I feel that a lot of people are not opinionated when they write their reviews, because they just want people to like what they write. It comes at a price, though. I guess you lose a bit of yourself when you don't put yourself in the review.
Hey man, if you don't risk anything, no pain, no gain. Okay, that's how I see it. That's actually the next topic I'm gonna go through. So move to the next one.
All right. Reviews are not personal blogs or online diaries.
Yes, as you can see, I'm moving a little bit like going in reverse on each side of way. First of all, I said there's no objectivity, so you cannot just expect anything. But you must be opinionated, meaning that you must pour yourself in. At the same time, you shouldn't be 100% opinionated. You should always remember that you're still writing a review. And this is something I read in many reviews, which are not really reviews. It's like, today I had lunch and I was really bored. And all of a sudden, whoa, I found this anime, and these guys told me, whoa, dude, this is like special. What? Oh, yeah. And I'm reading like this 500,000 words of something that has nothing to do with the review. What about the anime guys? What's going on here?
So wait. So you're saying when someone says, I just finished a hard day of school and I needed something to pick me up. I was depressed. Then I found this anime. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yes, it's when you are 100% opinionated and to the point you are completely off topic. You're no longer talking about the anime. You're talking about yourself only. And it ends up being your personal blog or your diary. You're writing down your daily thoughts or something. It's not really about the anime. It's about you, how you spend your day. It gives a nice feel to it, but it's not a review. It's going to make a fine blog post about what you did on February 3rd of 2012, but it's going to be completely useless to somebody who's trying to figure out if this goddamn show is interesting or not.
You're killing me, man. All right, let's move on to the next one, man. We got a lot of these, man. At number 4, reviews are not summaries or teasers.
Yes, this is the most dried up way of trying to make a review. Is when somebody
I personally hate this myself as well, actually.
Yes, it's almost like obvious what's going on here. They take the description, they copy paste it inside the review and say, whoa, isn't this story amazing, you guys? It is wonderful. Go, give it a 10 and watch it now. They don't even try to explain anything.
So wait, let me give you an example of that. Wow, this orphan ninja becomes part of a ninja team and he's got a hidden demon inside of him. Doesn't that sound cool? I'll give it a 10.
Yes, exactly. And this actually translates to the premise of any show. You're seeing the basic idea, you say the hook of the story, but you don't exactly explain if it was used properly, if the pacing was good, if there were no fillers, if the characters develop or they're interesting. They don't say anything. It's just the hook. So it ends up becoming a teaser, something like going to the cinema and seeing and watching the following movie. It's like, whoa, I gotta watch this movie because it has nice flashy visuals and stuff. This is not a review, okay? This is a summary and a teaser, and you're supposed to get hyped. You're supposed to make the others get hyped about it, which is completely false and useless. It doesn't really help them to do anything other than saying, okay, I'm going to try this one. And many people think that they're supposed to do that with their reviews. They're supposed to say, if I manage to convince 100 guys to start a show I like, then it was a successful review. No, It was propaganda. And even if you're not paid about it, you did a mistake there, because even if most of them like the show and thank you for hyping them into watching it, you're not really reviewing. You're hyping. There's a lot of difference here. And this is something I do not like when I see it in reviews. And when I go in and say, this is just a description, it's not really a review, they usually say, I didn't want to get into details because it would spoil something. Oh, great. You would spoil something. Great. This is the next part. So I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to spoil my own next part. So keep on going.
No. Let me read. This next part is the one that a lot of people want to know about. Let me read a little bit of it. I'm going to read the title and read a little bit of it, all right? Reviews can be negative, and this is the first sentence you wrote. Many people complain about how many of my reviews have overly negative image that can lead to numerous completely retarded questions such as the following. Roricon, why are you so negative? Reviews, they should never be negative, all right? Why are you so negative?
Okay, first of all, there's a difference between being negative and being demanding, okay? You're being negative when you are 100% against the show, but when you're demanding, well, at least half of what you're going to say are not exactly going to sound very positive. Since most anime aim at the mainstream audience, they're not exactly trying to be very analytical or critical of themselves and stuff, and they usually don't try too much in terms of directing or storytelling or developing its characters. They're just trying to be cool. So when they're trying to do things very light and easygoing, they tend to forget many finer details. And when I'm reviewing them, I say, they didn't exactly try too much, just made it fancy, so most people will get hooked. Like reviews cannot be summaries or teasers. They're doing the same thing.
But wait a minute, Roricon. If you don't like a show, why do you keep watching it?
Oh, because I want to complete it, because I'm a completionist.
That's a gift and a curse. That's a gift and a curse, isn't it?
Yes, I know. When you love something, you want to finish it, even if you hate it, just for the sake of saying, I finished it. Because this is like a double-edged knife everybody keeps using about you. When you don't like something, they tell you, why do you keep on watching it? Because if I don't finish it, I'm supposed to review it on a more objective way. And when you eventually do finish watching it all, you say, yeah, you hate it, but you otherwise sat down and watched 300 episodes of something you hate. Are you crazy? So
all right, let me ask you then. Is there any anime you've given up on then? Is there anyone you just couldn't bear? It was just so bad that you actually just couldn't watch anymore?
Yes, it usually has to do with 100% ecchi shows. I used to be able to watch them back in my teenage years, but after watching so many of them, and they all were like identical, they had no plot, and they were just, excuses for soft porn. I usually end up giving up on them very early nowadays. I'm just saying, there is nothing going on in this show. It's just dumb fun. It has nothing to offer me. If I so much want to get a boner, there's always so many porn sites with actual stuff going on inside them. I don't want to watch this on an animated form. It's an offense to the medium. Okay, that's how I see it. That is everywhere, every place, on every show. I don't want to see that. There's a special category for that, and we don't want to talk about that. Leave it outside of the other shows, okay, you guys? It offends me after a while. I know it's a very nice way to attract teenagers and stuff, but it's no longer that special in the sort of way that now everybody does it. Back like in the 80s, it was very special to have fan service in your shows because the cartoons didn't have it.
Well, this is what really bothers me, especially about dubs. I don't know what licensing companies in America choose what anime that they're going to license and bring over, but I've noticed that they are usually the most fan service stupidest ones, like was it Queen of Martial Hearts and I can't even, Queen's Blade, and so many of them are so bad. And I'm like, the people that don't watch anime, people that are not anime fans, this is what they get exposed to first.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what gives anime a terrible name, because they feel, oh, look at anime. What's this? Schoolgirl, big breasts. This is anime. That's all the anime's about. And I've heard so many people that don't know anything about anime, that's what they think anime's about. Just school life, big breasted, stupid, slapstick, fan service, fan catering anime. And that's what America keep on distributing. That's the majority of the anime that gets picked up now is the most heavily fan service titles, which is extremely frustrating and disappointing to me.
Yes, I know. I understand it's a very nice hook to anyone who is into it, because suppose if somebody does not like fan service, why he's even watching anime? It's like self-explanatory. I mean, if you don't like fan service, why are you watching anime? And I also do understand that fan service ends up being quite unimportant after a while, because if you get used to breasts and boobs and asses and all the stuff, eventually you are more ready to accept deeper meanings. So I don't think that any average viewer is going to begin watching a deep, thought-provoking show and enjoy it if he doesn't first go through all this mess of boobs and nudity and fan service and stuff, because he's supposed to kind of mature his mindset in a way to say, I went through all the stages and now I'm ready to watch seinen and mature shows and stuff like that. Or at least that's how I see it. You cannot just take...
No, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. That's a good point.
Yes, you cannot just take a 12-year-old and just immediately give him Neon Genesis. He's just going to say this is like robots and stuff, and some guy's crying in a corner. What's so interesting? But if you give him to watch a dozen ecchi shows and then a dozen typical mecha shows, and then you give him Neon Genesis and say, whoa, it's like so much more mature than what I've seen so far.
Yeah, but the flip side to what you're saying is, once someone's watched so much of the fan service stuff, they usually generalize that to be all anime in general. Like, oh no, this is really cool, and no, it's not. I'm sure they don't even want to give it a chance. That's my experience. They've just been, the fan service is just Like what you're saying, in some cases, yeah, what you're saying happens. They're ready to watch something of a deeper meaning, but in other cases, they just assume all anime is stupid fan service.
Yes, in this situation, we have a thing called weeding out those who are not worthy. You begin with the lowest tier shows and like tens of thousands pouring trying to watch them because, ooh, boobs, we don't have that in cartoons. And from those who are willing to move forward into the next step, they're lowered in numbers, they're getting weeding out, they just move to more mature and more violent and more deep thought-provoking shows. And before you know it, you have a few hundred at best in the end who are watching like the top tiers, as I call them, and they are the worthy ones. And chances are those guys wouldn't reach that stage if they had begun straight from the top tiers of anime, as I call them. It's an important evil. You cannot do without it. You have to go through these stages. I don't like it when they are only exporting those shows. They should be exporting other types of shows, but you know the dangers. Since it's not for everybody, those niche shows, which are supposed to be deeper and thought-provoking, they are not appreciated by the majority of people, so they don't sell very well. They usually take a lot more money, a lot more attention, and the payback is a lot smaller on an average.
I understand. Sex sells to all men. It's a basic human principle. Like you said, these other genres, psychology, they only appeal to a small amount of people. And at the end of the day, anime is a business. They're trying to make money, and I do understand all that. But anime itself is in this crisis that everyone's going on and on about. So, if I don't know, man, I don't know how you get people to see the good stuff when the companies only want to promote the stuff that are the sure shots, the things that they know are going to sell, but they're not really have any more value. But you know what? We're both going on a tangent on this. Let me continue with your blog because I think people kind of know where we stand on this particular point.
Okay.
So going back to you in particular, here's another question you're constantly asked. Why are you forcing your negative opinions on other people's reviews who have a positive view of a show?
That's something which is not really a negative opinion. It's more like a different way to see it things. If he thinks like a show is a 10, whoa, Naruto, what we were talking about before, and say, no, it's not really a negative opinion. It's more like he's pulling from one side of the rope and I'm pulling from the other side of the rope. And we're supposed to find something in between, like we're going to have the best opinion somewhere in the middle. If I go easy with him, he's not going to listen. If I pull too much, maybe he's going to listen. And if I was going too easy with him, he's just wouldn't listen to me at all. So I'm just going for the extremes in the same extreme way he's going from his point of view. And suppose we're going to have this middle point, we're going to agree on both sides. This is how I see it. Of course, many people are going to say that I'm a fanboy and you're a hater, and this will never work out. But if I was going, maybe perhaps you're going to go into this attitude, it wouldn't work out at all. At least that's how I see it. So it's not really being negative. It's more like I'm trying to be pushy in a good way, to try to make him see things from a different perspective. And when you have a fanatic, you're supposed to be fanatic back, or else he's not going to listen. You cannot just go kind with mujahidins and stuff like that.
Well, you know what? Let me ask you from your perspective. Do you get a lot more haters from you than you? Because I've seen people that thank you for your reviews and, saying that your reviews are good. You've seen things from a different angle and they appreciate that, you see things like the small niche amount. Is it that bad? Is it that overwhelmingly amount of people saying you're bothering them?
Yes, technically speaking, most of them are having very negative comments about me. But the truth is that they didn't expect most of them to appreciate it. And the truth is that those who understand and listen and reply back are those who end up, being buddies with me. And here we are chatting on Skype. I'm doing my own weeding out of sorts, since if I'm talking to 200 people for the first time and only 100 of them reply because the others are going to ignore me, and for those 100 people, 50 of them will not be annoyed, but going to listen to me for the second time, and 20 of them will end up understanding what I'm trying to say. 10 of them will end up here on Skype so I can chat with them about anime. And before you know it, you know what? Every single person who sat here and talked with me on Skype, he ends up agreeing with me to the most part. He understands I'm being overly critical and I'm expecting too much out of a medium. It's supposed to be mostly for entertainment and not education. It's not supposed to be philosophical at all, okay? It's supposed to be entertainment. It's a basic core of everything. I understand it. And when I explain myself, something which I cannot do with a few comments here and there, like, why you disagree on that and why do you agree on that? I cannot explain myself in just a few comments. You're supposed to sit down and talk with a guy like making a podcast.
Well, let me go on to the next section then, which I will kind of start the conversation by saying, you've put at number 6, you got is reviews are not infallible truths. When you have someone that's reviewed as much reviews as you, people start to feel inferior. They start to feel like that you're better, that what you say is law. You know what I mean? Everything you've written is gospel and you know the best. And I think that's a misconception that people get, because I don't think, although you might even come off sounding a little bit, I don't want to say high and mighty, but you might come off sounding a little bit arrogant. I don't think you're trying to say everything I say, that's the truth of the matter.
And this part, it's mostly when I'm commenting on other people who are not willing to receive feedback. Feedback is when you're making a review and you receive other people's opinion about it. And what most people don't seem to understand, and this is the thing of why I did not agree with you to make the podcast on an earlier month when you asked me about it, is because I wasn't fully aware of this problem up until now. For some reason, people have now confused the word opinion with the word dogma. I don't understand why does that happen. And they always think that reviews are supposed to be a very personal thing, which is not supposed to receive any criticism at all. You can thank them, but you must never disagree with them. And I say, when did this happen? Reviews are supposed to be an analysis. They're not supposed to be your personal blog, your opinion, your dogma, or whatever you're going to call it. You're not commenting on something you watched. You're analyzing it. So when I'm just going in and say, you know what, I don't agree with you, and this is why and that, it's because I don't feel that you just made an infallible truth which I'm supposed to accept as if you're the Pope. Just listen to me, man. Why are you telling me what you think of the show, but you don't receive back what I think about what you think of the show? It's not fair, is it? And after all, this is the internet. Isn't this the internet?
I think what you're saying, on top of everything else you're saying, is that reviews at its core are opinions, experiences. It's my experience of the show and what I think. It's not the truth or what, this is what they're trying to do. You might say that in the anime review, but the bottom line is, it's your experience. All right, you're trying to convince people of maybe what you think of it, but you're not trying to convince them. You're not trying to think for them, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I should probably have mentioned that whole experience thing. It's when somebody says Naruto is the best shonen ever, I'm going to say, what about One Piece? Something like that, which sounds like true to me, like One Piece is better than Naruto. Why is he saying that Naruto is the best shonen and it's not One Piece? So when I go in and tell him that, he's supposed to explain why, and not just say, shut up, this is my opinion, I don't want to hear about it or something.
Aha. You see, now that's what happens a lot, isn't it?
Yes.
People don't want to even talk to you. They just want to say, oh, you don't comment on my review, or just shut up, that's what I think, and end the story. But you're just trying to invoke a response, like a conversation. Like, why do you think that?
Most people think I'm an attention bitch. And perhaps I am sometimes, because I like chatting with people on Mal about anime, which I'm supposed to be doing anyway. So, first of all, I do want to chat with people. And the best way to chat with someone, to provoke a reply, is to make him not exactly angry, to provoke him into answering. He's not going to exactly reply to you if you say, oh, great review. What are you going to say? Thank you, and that's it. But if you say, I disagree on that part, then you have a nice excuse to start a conversation, which does not have to start and end about what he wrote. It's just an excuse to move to other things. And before you know it, if things go well, we have this weeding out procedure and stuff, we end up being buddies and exchanging information and perhaps recommendating to each other and stuff and blah, blah, blah. It's a procedure I'm doing. It's a hook. It's a trick I'm using all the time. But I do not like it, and it's not right when people say, I don't want to receive any feedback or any sort of criticism what I wrote, because this is my opinion and stuff. Okay, based on your experience, maybe this is true, but what if I try to give you a better point of view by saying that this show is a lot better than what you consider it? And it's like a recommendation of sorts.
It is, and I actually appreciate it when you do that. I really do appreciate it, because at the end of the day, mate, you're doing me a favor because you watch anime notoriously. I don't watch anime as much as you do, so I like to speak to someone who has already watched anime and who has a very strong opinion about it. And what you find is if you have a similar taste to that person and they've said this, you might, and you find that, hey, this guy is very much like me. It's a beautiful thing, man. Someone can save you time, and I think that's the whole point of a review, the essence of a review, helping people find stuff they want to watch.
As they should.
But anyway, let's move on to
wait. First of all, let me try to be a bit off topic myself here and try to explain.
Okay, go on.
There's a small problem with the internet. You probably have heard it before. It's because of the internet, nobody's awesome anymore. In the sense that when you were alone in your area before the internet era, whatever you were doing, whatever you were slightly good at in any hobby or in any talent, you would be seen as amazing in the eyes of the local populace. But because of the internet and YouTube and stuff, you're now pitted against the whole planet. So every time you're trying to do something, you're going to have 100 people saying that this guy did it better, or this part is better, or that guy wrote a better book than you did, or drew a better sketch than you did. This happened to me as well. I used to be an amateur cartoonist back in my teenage years, and I was very, very good for what I knew, and I was self-taught. Nobody tried to teach me anything. And then all of a sudden, I went on the internet and I find DeviantArt and say, holy shit, I know nothing. So it is very depressing when you have someone telling you, you're not as awesome as you think. It's really, really depressing.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that, yeah.
I fully understand why most people will be irritated if you just suddenly tell them that your opinion means nothing compared to that opinion or something like that. Because of the internet, it's the problem that the internet causes some people. It gives them the thought that you're not special. You're just another number. You're just another nobody. So I understand when many guys are going to be very insulted by me saying that. I'm not exactly saying that, but it will pass as such. And it's up to them to say, you know what? You're probably right. What do you mean by that? Try to help me understand it and, I don't know, improve myself, perhaps?
You've touched on something that's really poignant, actually. That's an excellent point. What you're saying, it's a good and it's a bad thing and it's a good thing because, it kind of depends on your personality. It is extremely, what you're saying is true. It's extremely depressing to be exposed to a wide range of talent. The upside to it is it breeds competition and hopefully it kind of makes you want to be better. But but in most cases, it will knock people down and make them feel like, why bother? I've seen better. There's a saying, there's nothing new under the sun. If you thought of an idea, someone else already thought of it. If they've probably implemented it and it's probably done better.
Exactly.
And it is depressing. I totally agree. But at the same time, we're trying to better each other as human. We're trying to become better as human beings. We shouldn't think of it. I'm being a humanitarian here. We shouldn't think about being so competitive, but more collaborative, learning off each other and becoming better. That's the whole evolution of the human race. But unfortunately, obviously, I'm thinking like there's some peaceful humanitarian. Life is not like that. Humans are built to compete. Humans feel jealous, envious, so forth and so forth. So in most cases, yes, when you get out there and take your foot outside your door and you start to realize we're all connected, the internet does knock you down a couple of pegs, or not a couple of thousand of pegs. You have shows like American Idol and all these competition shows where everyone's trying to compete against each other. And then you realize that like you said, you're just another face in the crowd. It is quite depressing. And this doesn't just apply to anime. And I know people think we've totally kind of gone off topic, but it's applicable to anime. It's applicable to anything. The internet has changed everything, the way we see everything. But to be honest with you, the only way to survive, like I was just saying, is to be more collaborative and to think about everyone has something unique to bring to the table. Like this podcast here, my anime podcast is definitely not the best anime podcast in the world, but you know what? It's my podcast and I bring something different because I'm different than everybody else. If you see things in like me against him kind of way, you probably won't get out of bed. You probably won't get out of bed, So you really have to see yourself as being unique. You've got something unique to bring to the table. yes, maybe what you've done, everyone else has done, but maybe you're that one. Maybe, but I don't know, man. I know we're kind of going off topic here, but I really like that point you just pointed it out. It's actually really poignant about the decade that we live in. And I apologize to the listeners that are probably rolling their eyes thinking, what the fuck are these guys going on about now? But
Oh, come on. Now we're going totally philosophical over here. It's the most important thing we can possibly do. And I even want to expand on this idea by showing the bright side of things, which I have experienced myself. So moving on to the on-topic section, which is like closer to what we're talking about without actually going in topic. It's going to be the same off-topic thing anyway. It's just personally, when I used to be an amateur cartoonist, because I could never become an animateur, as much as I liked in my country, I was just a cartoonist, an amateur, self-taught and stuff. I also saw those amazing comic books I used to read and say, oh, why can't I draw something like that? And because surely my skills were not as good, I ended up trying to learn from those by making imitations, trying to copy their style, trying to copy their methods and stuff. I ended up making imitations of what I was reading and loving, which of course was inferior because I was not that good in the coloring, I was not that good in sketching. But along the way, as much as I was trying to copy other people, I almost instinctively started pouring in my own ideas. They started off as complete rehashes of other guys, but along the way I would say, I don't like when he's doing that, so I'm just going to change it. And I don't like when he's doing that because it's very expected, so I'm not going to do it. And before I realized it myself. I was being completely personal, and I was doing something which was never done before. Well, from what I knew anyway back then. So that's the thing. You can always learn from the tops. You can get depressed by saying that I will never be as good as the tops, but at least along the way you are learning from them. You're getting a bit closer to them, never exactly on their level. And along the way, as long as you're trying to think about it and say, you know what he's doing over there, I don't like it. I'm just gonna improve it, change it, something like that, huh? Maybe it ends up being a better formula. And if you keep on experimenting too long by seeing what other people are doing it, eventually you become yourself. You learn from the tops, and along the way you become yourself. And this is why my own personal sketching style, as much as neglected I have it today, for example, the avatar I have on all the sites is my own personal sketch. And I have many guys saying, where did you get that sketch? And I say, I drew it myself. Why? And they say, it's so weird. Yes, I know. It's not mainstream. It's not your typical Moish face you just stole from some K-On poster. It's not your typical shonen you just found on some cover and just printed it and pasted it on your profile. It's something I drew myself. Of course it's weird.
It's cool. I like it. He's talking about his profile picture, people, if you don't know what he's talking about. If you go on Mal and you look at Roriconfan's profile picture, he drew it himself. I think it's cool. It's kind of retro.
It is retro. I love retro. Most of the things I love are retro. The colors are very weird. The position of the body and the facial structure is very weird. And I understand it's not for everybody, but then again, how many times I'm supposed to read a story about an identical looking Jump Shonen character? I got tired of those Jump Shonens. They're all the same thing. They follow the same formula. This is exactly what I'm talking about. If you read too many Jump Shonen formulas, you end up saying, what if I try to do things differently? What if I try to do an imitation, but at the same time it's not going to be following the same formula? And this, okay, more off topic, okay. And this is exactly what the anime Bakuman is teaching us.
Love Bakuman.
Yes,
I love Bakuman. Yes. I love it. Love it.
Bakuman is showing things in the industry as they are. It ends up, of course, appealing too much on Jump Comics, of course. But it is telling you the truth. On one part, you must have talent. You must never give up. You must keep on competing forever for trying to get yourself better. But at the same time, you must never forget that you're trying to publish something on Jump Comics. Therefore, you must settle in for some formula which is going to sell.
Do you know, and sorry to cut you there, I just finished watching the second season of Bakuman, and that is the point that they drove home on the second season the most. You have to take your fans into account. It's not always about what you want per se. There's so many different things to consider. But just wanted to add that in there. I love Bakuman, but yeah, carry on. Sorry, Rorico.
Yes, technically that's what I'm trying to say about Bakuman. You can be yourself. You can learn on the way to have your own personality, way of writing. But in the end of the day, whatever you're going to make, write, sketch, or whatever, if it's not going to appeal to the people in a mainstream way, it's going to go to waste, sort of. Maybe a few people are going to appreciate the very personal way you have about writing, but most are going to say, I don't understand this guy. Why is he doing that? It's so weird. It's alien. It's distant. So this is like the very hard thing, the very core balance you have to find in whatever you're trying to do. On one side, you must try to constantly improve yourself by learning from the best. On the other side, you must try to be yourself by having your personal formula. But at the same time, you must still see why did those stops manage to sell to the majority and are so damn famous. For example, I could never understand why Rowling became so famous by writing Harry Potter. I mean, I've read the books and they're very nice reading, okay? But when you sit down and try to see what exactly did she wrote here, you find a lot of things which are sort of saying it's propaganda and very convenient, and it's like, okay, it's children's literature. But at the same time, it has so many things in it that could have been improved. It's just frustrating. Why did this book become so famous?
People, speaking as a Brit, and people always wanted a series like that with all the magic and all the fantasy, and Harry Potter now we're in the right era so you can visually see that nicely. Harry Potter isn't the first series like that. So many children's stories, a never-ending story, and all these other old 90s fairy tale-ish, shonen-ish type stories. But Harry Potter, I mean, it came at the right time. I think Harry Potter's pretty average across the board. Just like you, I don't know why it's phenomenal, so amazingly phenomenal. I just think it was the first one to get there, the first of its kind, to be such a long story, to be somewhat complex, and it had the magical, the magician element to it, and all. It had all the elements that served to the masses, which is what you were saying before, that people liked about. I think aesthetically, especially aesthetically, it had the right image for the time, and the market for the kids. They needed something there. All that Matrix, Lord of the Rings stuff, that's for the adults. The kids now got their franchise. And now, I think other people are trying to market in on stuff like that with, using Twilight and something, that's more for the late teens. But they're trying to market on different demographics now in media, especially with Hollywood. Which, again, is going off topic.
Oh, yes, but it's relevant, but at the same time, it's irrelevant. So let's move to the next topic.
Yeah. So anyway, excuse our tangent on life. And let's go back to people complaining about you. And I'm gonna the next two topics I'll kind of group together. First of all, people find your rating score to be particularly pessimistic with your 5s. The average score of a review should be the same as its enjoyment score.
This basically means that when you're reviewing, it's not the same thing as when you score a show. You can fully enjoy a show and give it a high rating, but when you are reviewing it, you take into consideration a lot more factors. So you can never have the same score as your enjoyment. 99% of the time, it's going to be a lot lower than your enjoyment. And let me give you a very simple example. When I first watched my first hentai titles, I fully enjoyed them, and I give them a 9 out of 10. But when I sat down to write a review about them and said, there's no story in them and there's no character development, okay, and the animation is terrible, why exactly am I supposed to give this an average of an 8? It's closer to a 4 after all the scoring has been end up doing. And this is technically what people should never try to confuse. Your enjoyment of the show, it's not the same as when you are analyzing a show. This is basically what I mean. So you shouldn't try to think that the enjoyment is the average.
But then there's a little problem I have with that, what you're saying, just because there's some sites that don't allow you to break things into categories. Like Mal, you can rate the animation, the sound, the story, the characters, and overall separately, yeah? So that applies to what you're saying. Other sites, they might just have a star system, which is out of 5, or they might just have a word rating, like buy it, don't buy it, okay, rent it, or throw it away. So I think a lot of the general public, I think they've gotten used to just overruling everything, and they would rather do that because they don't have the flexibility to actually rate things separately. When they're writing a review, they should definitely do that. But a lot of people, they'll just say, an example of what you're saying is this: you know what? I didn't like the animation, I didn't like the characters, but the story was great. It gets a 10.
Yes. And this gives me the excuse to talk about tastes, which are very relevant to enjoyment. When somebody says he has a very specific taste and likes a very specific genre, at the same time he's saying that he deliberately focuses on a very few aspects of any show and he deliberately filters out all the rest. So let's say that an N.H.K fan does not care about the story, does not care about character development, but he cares about the boobs being nicely drawn. So if he has nice nudity, he fully enjoys the show even if he doesn't have anything else. And this is what we call usually a taste. My taste is on fan service, and if it has lots of it and it's nicely presented, I give it a 10. Somebody else is going to say, I don't like fan service. So how am I supposed to enjoy the show? Why are you giving this an 8 when it's just nothing but nudity? So this is exactly what I'm not trying to do here, and this is exactly what passes as negativity, is when I'm seeing things as objective as possible, without, of course, never being 100%, as I always explained. It's just that when you are trying to see things more objective, you always start from a 5, the base score, 5 out of 10. And you try to see, is it better than the average or worse than the average? And you have, the usual categories like animation, music, story, characters, whatever. And you're trying to see that based on your experience, is this better than the average in this category or not? And you fluctuate it up and down. But most people do the exactly opposite. They start from a 10. And for every minor thing that annoys them, they just take out 1 point. It's like, okay, the animation is not great, so I'll give it a 9. And perhaps the motions are very stiff, I give it an 8. That's it, an 8. An 8! That would be like a 4 or 3 in my scale or something. Because it's less than average, to say it like this. And this is exactly the main difference. People who are thinking about things more objectively are always begin scoring from the base score, but those who don't always begin from the perfect score and just take out a few points for something that annoyed them. This is why most newbies end up giving in the 9s or 10s very easily, but those who are more critical give it usually 5 or 6 to most of their shows. And you see, the scoring chart. The newbies always have a descending line, which goes like most shows are an 8 and a 7 and a 6, and very few are 4, 3 or 2, 1. But those who are veterans and have watched a lot, it's usually like a pyramid. Very few 10s and 9s, and increases up to 6 and 5, and then it lowers again up to 4, 3, 2, 1. That's usually how it goes. And perhaps if you watch everything, it's going to be a reverse line, which an ascending line with a very few 10, more 9s, more 8s, and most of them will be 1 or 2. Perhaps, maybe.
What's your favorite type of anime? Do you have a favorite kind of genre? Obviously, you have to. Everyone has a favorite.
It's a mixture. I don't want to say it's something specific. It's a very mixture. I usually like anything with science fiction because science fiction is supposed to explain itself. I'm usually a very logical person who has to find a reason behind everything. So science fiction tends to explain everything since it's magic. It just happened. I prefer science fiction over magic, like fantasy. But at the same time, I don't hate fantasy. I love fantasy. I love anything with knights and dragons and wizards. I love those as well, as long as they explain where does all that magic power come from, where did that dragon live all those centuries, where exactly those knights trained. It's lesser of an explanation, but I also love it. So basically, I like both science fiction and fantasy, but I'm mostly inclined to science fiction for trying to explain things better. Of course, it usually ends up being technobabble because it doesn't exactly explain anything. It's just futuristic stuff that don't apply today and usually have nothing to do with it. Even if they do figure it out, it's like...
So basically what you're saying is kind of a paradox then, because you're kind of saying, I want you to explain it, even though your explanation cannot make sense, because obviously you're talking about fiction.
I want the logic to make sense. I don't want to compare it with our reality, but the in-logic of the series must be nicely explained. It's sort of what Type Moon does in its games and its adaptations. It has a very complicating terminology, whatever is going on in those shows. And from their perspective, they are all nicely explained. There's still magic, and if you really think about it, they do have some sort of a plot hole, but it's so complicated and so nicely presented, it just absorbs you. And of course, it's the visuals and the story and the characters and the atmosphere that help along that. But it really helps when you don't have, let's say, Slayers, with Lina and Varys using a dragon slave on everything, boom, and everything explodes, and say, ooh, Lina and Varys just used a dragon slave, it's the end of the story. It's when they have a lot more than that, saying that he tapped on the material forces of the planetary systems of fire, and by chanting the magical words, she managed to focus that energy passing through her 7 chi points and releasing through her fingertips, and by concentrating for 7 seconds, she spiraled them into this fireball, which was a lot more powerful than an average wizard because she was born the day of the unicorn, which, according to the constellations, and all that explanatory stuff, which is supposed to explain why somebody is doing something a lot better than somebody else. A lot better than just saying he is special.
All right, let's wrap that up because I want to jump down to. I'm reading through your blog, and like I said, we have gone into detail a bit, but I want to skip some because we've kind of gisted over a lot of it. So now I'm on number 14, which is which I want you to say to your listeners because I think they want to hear this. The reader should never take it personal.
Yes, in the sort of way that. Why? Okay, this has to be very, very specific. When somebody is reading a review, he's not reading somebody making fun of himself, okay? He's reading someone's opinion about something. When some guy is saying this show sucks and you happen to be a fanboy of it, many people tend to get it personal. It's like if somebody's a K-On fan and somebody's making fun of K-On, they take it personally. They think that it's making fun of themselves. It's like, who the hell likes this show? What, are you stupid or something? They see it like this. They shouldn't do that because just like there are people with many different tastes, whatever the reasons those may be, even myopic by filtering out the rest, it ends up being somebody else's review, somebody else's image of a show. And you should never think like just because somebody's making fun of your favorite show, he's making fun of you. He's not making fun of your intelligence or your taste. He's just...
A lot of people have accused you of doing that though, haven't they?
Yes, that's why I have it in my blog. Number 14. And this is exactly what I'm trying to explain here. When I'm reading something, even if it's against my favorite show, I don't take it personally. I just go and say, what about this part and this part and that, the other part? I'm seeing this from the perspective of the show, not from the perspective of how I like it. I don't go in and say, what you just said about me? I didn't say anything about you. Shut up! You don't like the show, so you said something bad about my mother or something. This is what I meant by saying, don't take it personal. He always supposed to focus on the show, not on you. Of course, when some people say directly on their reviews, only idiots will like the show, okay, this is getting rather personal. But still, it's just words he said. He doesn't know you. If he knows you, maybe this has nothing to do with the show. You're not exactly grouped by what you're watching. I mean, okay, usually what you watch is what you like, and what you like is who you are, but you're not just that. People are a lot more complicated than that. You shouldn't try to have genders and tags and grouping everything into categories like what they're doing with shows. True people have a million different tags, a million different genres, and a million different things to talk about. They're very complicating, despite usually focusing on very few of those with a heavy weight, as they call it, with 4 stars and having too much of this and too less of that and stuff. So don't take it personally because whatever you read in a review, it's still not what he thinks about you, it's what he thinks about the show and about the target audience. And saying target audience, it doesn't mean you. He means in a general sense, everybody who would watch this show. So when I'm saying that Naruto is for the mainstream viewers who have low expectations, I'm not saying that everybody who likes Naruto is an idiot. I'm just saying that he is grouped with those who would watch a show with low expectations. I'm not saying he's stupid. I'm just saying he's just going to go to that specific area. It's not him. It's just a general consensus. That's it.
That's cool. That's what the people want to hear. Rory, that's what they want to hear. You're not dissing me. You're just saying I associate myself with stupidity.
I have to spell it out for you on a podcast by Tyrocasts? Come on.
Hey, we're Planet Tyro now.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't notice here we changed I changed the project name. We're no longer Tyrocast, so that just goes to show how much you keep up with my blog, god damn it. But anyway, we're on to the last point now because, we want to give the people something to read. We've covered a lot of this, and I didn't really want you to speak on every single topic, even though we spoke about 75% of it. But the last point is what we've been hitting on from the beginning of this whole thing. Disputes are what keeps a site alive.
Oh yeah, my favorite part. That's why it's last. So, Technically speaking, there is nothing to talk about if you always agree with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go on a site, you're not supposed to say yes, yes, yes on every topic that is there. You're supposed to give your own perspective of a show, which usually may end up to some sort of disagreement, which usually may end up going to a flame war. And these things are not just bad, they're also important. It's a necessary evil. What keeps alive any site, any medium, it's not when things are going smoothly, it's when there is a conflict. Even in real life, things are more interesting when you have something to be worried about. Let's say your kids. If you have kids and you're worried about them, your life is more important. It's more rich, it's more colorful. If you don't have any kids and just live all your days inside and you watch television, that's boring. That's a fruitless life. You have nothing to worry about. In the same sense that when you're disagreeing about something and you press on disagreeing about something, it gives you something to do, man. It's like, I have to convince this guy over the internet that this thing is like right or wrong. And as petty as it sounds, it gives you something to look forward to, as pathetic as it is. And when we are talking about some more important things like the ethics and moral messages of, let's say, Death Note, which, if you have noticed, they have covered enough blog posts to feed all the hungry people in the world about how was L doing things and was he right, and did everybody else did the right thing by being sacrificed in his grandeur, or was he just a megalomaniac, or all things together? Yes, all the things together. And you sit down and write and talk about it, yes. They're very complicating and they're very nicely, but you cannot just say yes. You first have to mention them and somebody else needs to add something to them and perhaps disagree on that part. And after a few years, if many people get into it, you're going to have a general consensus, a general image of how most people perceive an image, which may even be completely different to how the original author or the original director wanted it to be. And I remember one of the most famous examples of all that being Neon Genesis. Since the show did not explain shit about what the hell is going on with that show, we had these endless discussions about what does that mean and what did the other thing mean and what is going on here.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Anno jumped on and said, "Oh, guys, I didn't know what I was doing myself, so here are the answers." After like 3 years ago, he made this video game. He just included inside these hidden files, which are supposed to explain all the things that made no sense in the show.
Really? I've never heard of that.
Official answers by Anno himself, and some guys took it so personally. They just dressed as V and went all over the internet, starting to spread this Bible of sorts, the Gospel of Anno, explaining things. And this is exactly what he's shown in his movies. They're supposed to be the revised version of his true meaning and stuff. So
I haven't actually watched them. What do you think of them? 2.1.1, 2.2, whatever.
About the movies. First of all, the first one was identical. It had no real differences. It was the same thing in a shorter version with better visuals. No problems with it. Now the second one, I didn't like how the characters were so opening up easily. It's like in the show they were always moody and in a corner and were not doing anything, but over here they're so open. It's like they're talking to each other so fast. And this is like sort of a contradiction, because what was making them so specific and so memorable in the original was how they were always closed up on themselves. They were never expressing themselves. They're expressing themselves very fast in the movies. And this feels like a contradiction, almost like a betrayal. I know many people who love now that Asuka is more opened up, and Shinji mentions his inner fears all the time, and people understand him easier. But this is not what made the original version good. The original version was about, why is this guy so moody all the time? And you know what? This did not make them any shallower. They were still great as characters. And eventually, you did explain. You had an explanation of sorts from all those continual flashbacks in the latest episodes. But to be honest, it's not a bad version. The second movie just wanted to go faster to how they were thinking and open them up faster. What I didn't like at all is how they included a fourth pilot, that new girl with the glasses, and say, what exactly is she doing in this show? Like, why is she presented as so important? Maybe they're going to show something about her in the next movie, but this like destroys the balance of what you had in your mind. You had the cool Dere, the tsundere, and in the middle of them the harem leader, whatever you want to call him, Shinji. And now they're throwing another girl. What's she supposed to be representing? It's some sort of a new
harem? Is he going to have a harem?
He already have a harem, but what's she doing there? Why didn't they include in her? I understand it's a nice way to show that one of those Evas that blew up in the main series, we didn't even saw how it blew up. Over here, it was actually an angel attacking and stuff. They try to expand on that idea. It's very nice. I also like how they expanded on the idea that they're trying to clean the oceans of the planet by making some filtering machine that now looks like, the Saffron.
Well, you know what? Don't give too many spoilers because I haven't even seen it.
I'm just saying that it became a lot more sci-fi. That now they included a lot more facilities. It makes it look a lot more science fiction. It has a lot.
Right, so it sounds like what you're saying is they're trying to kind of soften it up, make it easier to digest, and introduce. I don't know. It slightly sounds like a different show the way you're explaining it.
Yes, it is a different show. It has a lot different. Not the first movie, which is basically the same. The second movie, it's going for a lighter version, a cheerier version, a lot more science fiction based version. But it does give you hints if you read those secret files. Arno pointed out a few years ago that explain his things. He's not truly explaining them. If you see those really small scenes, oh, there it is. I see what you did there. So he is improving the overall image. He didn't exactly have these clear thoughts about him when he made the original series. I do appreciate how he's now trying to make things more clear. But at the same time, it's a lot cheery, man. It's not the same dark, moody thing it used to be back in 95. And it's not like our world needs to have things cheerier. We are as depressed as we were back in those years. We are going through the same economic crisis and now on a global scale. So he didn't exactly need to be so moody. But then again, you're going to say, this is a movie. People go to the movies and want to be entertained. It's not the same as a TV series where you just sit in your house and you're depressed and you sit there something depressed. If you do that in a movie form, you're going to say, did you just give $8 to watch a movie that's so depressing or something? So it's not the same thing. It was meant to be more flashy and more cheery and more opened up and stuff. And since you don't have a whole show to give it more smoothly, to present it more smoothly, you ended up having to rush things in a sort of way. But surely, if somebody has watched the series and watches the movies, he may appreciate it for what they are, even if they are rushed in a sort of way. And the only thing I really disliked is how it's a lot brighter and it has a fourth girl inside it. By fourth, I mean the third being Kusanagi, the elder woman who's taken over Shinji. The fourth one is supposed to be this glassed girl, whatever her name was. So I have no real problems with these movies. But on the other hand, when we go to another movie, the Berserk movie remakes, I didn't like those at all. I only watched.
Have you seen them? Because I can't find any sub for it at all.
No, I didn't. But I did watch the first 10 minutes. They were on YouTube since.
Yeah. I've seen those just like you, and we did the Berserk special already. You probably heard it, but basically, sorry to cut you, Rory, but basically, like I said in the other podcast, Berserk, apart, the Dark Swordsman arc, I would rather see that than this again, because I don't know why you need to CGI this part of the story in particular.
Because it has all the wars inside it, man. It has all the wars. It doesn't have them.
Yeah, I know that, but it didn't really add any. The storylines why I love Berserk, not the actual action or animation. So for them to kind of aesthetically dally up, it didn't really. It just doesn't look any better to me.
That's exactly what I mean. They're trying to make a remake of Berserk in the same way they're trying to make a remake of Neon Genesis, but it's far worse than the original, which is also far worse than the manga, but oh well. So this is exactly what I mean. Compared to other remakes in movie formats, don't remind me what they try to do with the reproduction of Fate Stay Night, or what they're doing right now with the remake of the second arc of Rurouni Kenshin. So based on those...
don't even... Oh, God, yeah.
So based on those remarks, yes, Neon Genesis is an awesome remake in movie format, because compared to anything else you try to do, it is damn great. The animation is a lot better. It looks smoother. The action is better. So, okay, some things are taken out and then I'd louder, blah, 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 blah. Compared to those crude 3D effects on Berserk or the rushed and inexplanatory things seen in Fate Stay Night and the Rurouni Kenshin over remakes, it's a lot better. It's a great thing.
Okay. Well, you know what, Rory? We've been talking for nearly 2 hours. Now,
Really?
we know people, the podcast isn't over yet. It's not over yet. But what I want to do now is I want to take a little break because I got to use the toilet. And then we're going to come back. And Rory, I want you, we've given people everything they needed to know about you. I mean, people said the first podcast was too short. Now we've gone on for nearly 2 hours. But what we're going to end the podcast is on 2012, 2011. I want you to talk about some of the newer titles, how you feel about the scene now, because
Oh boy.
people can't. I don't know if a lot of people can get to your reviews because they're not sure whether to go to Mal or Anime Planet or whatever. So we're going to cover all of that and then we're going to wrap up the podcast. But for now, people, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back with the rest of the podcast. All right, people, we're back. And, you know, for the record, I probably should have put in a couple more breaks because me and you, we went on so many tangents. But that's what happens when you talk to someone and you're enjoying the conversation. You just lose track of time and you just keep talking. And, you know, for the listeners that have gotten this far, thanks for holding on this long.
Hey, man, if you're having a nice time, there's no problem with me. I'm just saying, whoa, 2 hours? When did that happen? Something like that.
All right, man. So, Rory, before I was saying, at the beginning of the year, I actually wanted you on the podcast because I wanted you to talk about 2011 in review. You review anime all the time, and I don't really like what I see in the newer anime, so usually I read reviews like yours or some other people's to find out what's best. So before we'll talk about 2012 as well, but what did you think of anime in 2011? Was there anything worth mentioning? Anything you felt that was neglected? Give us your thoughts on 2011.
Now, about that, there were many interesting shows in 2011, that's for sure. There was a lot of hype, especially around Madoka Magica and in the beginning of the year. And even if we don't include that one, which was overhyped unnecessarily, if you ask me, there was still a lot of interesting series to follow, but none of them was of what I call a masterpiece level. None of them tried to be thought-provoking. Not really thought-provoking. Many of them tried, like, let's say, Steins Gate was in a way the best adaptation of a visual novel ever made. I admit to that. And it did present a time travel in a rather original way, but other than that, it was full of what I consider too much fun cater. So it failed in the long run to be something truly amazing because it was still trying to please the fans too much, especially the visual novel fans. So I do not consider to be a masterpiece. And even if Madoka, for example, tried to revolutionize the magical girl genre, it still failed because it was too short and too vague, and eventually it was mostly shock effect and not about the characters. It was mostly about the shock effect and random ideas thrown inside in a very short amount of time. And I do understand it's very nice to talk about it, and just like many other shows like Code Geass and Death Note and others, it has a lot to talk about. It has a lot of context. It just doesn't make use of it. It just throws it inside, barely analyzes it, and makes you think about it, and that's it.
You know, it's funny because when I finished watching Madoka Magica, I read your review, which was, I think you really had a bone to pick with that one because you did an episode by episode breakdown, which is, you don't do that with every review. So I thought that was particularly interesting. And at first I thought you were being, again, harsh, as everyone else usually says. But then a lot of the things you just said, I agree. Like the number one thing I agree with, I think it was too short.
Yes, exactly. It could easily be a full season. It could easily, with so much context, it would easily be a full season anime, but they didn't do that. They compressed everything in just 12 episodes just to not give you the time to think about it.
I've noticed that a lot of anime are coming out shorter. That there's actually a lot of anime coming out 13 and 12 and less 25, 26s now. Do you reckon that's a good thing or a bad thing?
For most shows, this is a good thing, but when it comes to complicated shows, it's a bad thing. If we, for example, have a harem show, there's no reason to have 24 episodes of that since there is no plot. It's usually you're usually introduced to the setting of the first episode, and you have a rush conclusion in the last episode. The in-betweens are just fillers. It was always like that. It's still like that. There's no reason to have a full season. It's not going to give you a better image of the show. It's still the same thing no matter how many episodes it's going to be. So in those cases, those shallow, on-the-run made shows just to sell easy bucks, it's okay. Just make them 12 episodes. This, in fact, gives you a better budget, better episode, have a better quality of it. If you have 24, you usually run out. This is something that happens on almost every show. They give you an amount of money, and towards the end, oh, no, we don't have enough money. Then the last episodes are shit. And this is what happened even to Neon Genesis. And to an even older show.
So come on, man. Apart from Steins Gate and Madoka, there wasn't any other anime in 2011 worth mentioning?
No, there were many others. There was, for example, Fate Zero. Huh? They also began
Really?
making
Okay.
Fate Zero, which is the prequel of Fate Stay Night, and it's definitely a lot better than the original, which I have no idea what was so famous in the first place. It was just...
Neither do I. I thought it was ridiculous. You know what? I might have to give a spoiler here, honestly, because I thought a story about. You know what? I'm not going to give spoil. I was about to. I'm not going to spoil it. When you find out what Fate Stay Night is about, I thought it was it was surprising. Is that it? And then there's such a big fan base for it now. Oh, so excellent. So, I mean, I'm surprised you're saying Fate Stays. I've heard a lot of good about Fate Stay Zero, but because it's the majority of people, I'm just thinking, oh, that's everyone. But even you're saying it's actually good, then I'm like, okay, I might have to give it.
Better than Stay Night in the sense that its characters are now adults. They're not teenagers. This is the basic difference. They are talking in a lot more mature way, in a lot more complicated way, more fancy words. Even the author was a lot better author than the original one. So it's a lot better in overall, and I do admit it's an excellent show for that year, but it's not a masterpiece because it deliberately stretches out the whole death tournament to last as much as possible. I mean, for example, you could easily see that they could take out half of the competitors on episode 3. They don't do that. They just have them looking at each other, drawing out their weapons, but nobody's trying to fight. They just talk and talk and talk, and then they back up. Why? Because this way you wouldn't know the characters. You wouldn't appreciate them for what they are because they would be killed on episode 3. Dumb. But on the second season, that's the second part, which is airing still right now, everybody's dying, man. They're dying like flies. That's it. Like, what should have happened since episode 3 now happens on episodic structure. It's like on every episode somebody's going to die, which is something you would expect would have happened since the very first episode. But they didn't do that because, technically speaking, every main character in Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night is a poser dude, okay? He looks gorgeous, he has this fancy power, he has this fancy background, and you need a few episodes to flesh him out before you kill him. And it's kind of a cheat. It's kind of a cheat, man. You know that they're supposed to kill each other, but they're deliberately not doing so for half the show just because you need to get to know them. Technically speaking, it's like a cheat, so you will have the time to know them, and I didn't like that.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, you are an anime reviewer. You know, it gets when you've watched as much anime as you do, you start to see things from the perspective as a director. A lot of people aren't going to see it that way. They probably were surprised. Oh my god, I can't believe it. So, from your perspective, what was, you know, kind of cheap and a cheap trick, which I can agree with, people probably won't even notice. They're probably just loving it, watching it, and lapping it up.
Yes, they love the characters for being alive, not being dead. That's for sure. And surely, man, I'm telling you, I have no idea why they're giving that show a good score to the story. The story, the main core story, the main objective, the main conflict is garbage. Okay? It is completely simplistic and it doesn't even matter in the long run. It's just the personal stories that matter. It's the side stories, not the core story. It's like playing one of those Western RPGs when the core story is like go beat the dragon and you spend 50 hours playing every single side quest. That's it. You're enjoying the show for the side quest. You're not enjoying it for the main story.
Are you serious? Bloody hell.
Oh, yes.
That sounds ridiculous.
I mean, sure. Okay, without spoiling anything, the main story of Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero is 7 guys fighting over a cup. That's it. Surely, there's nothing more to it.
Is that football? It sounds like football.
Yes.
Fans of Fate Stay that are listening to this probably hate us right now. But I haven't watched the show. I've watched Fate Stay Night, and I was just like, this just seems like any other typical shonen-ish stupid. To be honest, I don't know why, it reminded me of Shana. You know, I don't know why. It reminded me of Shana.
I cannot say anything about it because I see the similarities, but it's a formula that's been followed along the years. If you move before those shows, technically speaking, if you remember 3x3 eyes, perhaps 3 by 3.
Yeah, 3 times 3 eyes. I love that anime. Yeah.
Yes, it's the first version of which at least I know of the exact same thing. Some guy one day meeting a chick with superpowers and he gets killed and she resurrects him and today they go fight monsters.
Yeah, true,
and they're supposed to find this magic trinket. It's going to change the world and blah, 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 blah. This was the oldest version which I know of. Afterwards, they keep on following on that formula. Bleach is following the same formula. Yes, booster ranking follows the same formula. If I think about it, there are so many shows following this exact same idea. It's just that from all of them, Fate Stay Night, Fate Zero did it on an overall better presentation because it focused on lots of characters, not just the main two protagonists.
Okay.
And it has a lot more technobabble than any other similar show. They're trying to explain everything with those fancy words, which are technically magic, presented in a very complicated way. So it looks nice. It's like dealing with Naruto hand seals. They're just shaking their hands and stuff happen, but when you try to explain it in series, it sounds a lot complicating. When it's
okay. Look, let me force you to move on. Have you got any other shows 2011 you want to point out?
Yes. The nice surprise was about Usagi Drop. Usagi Drop, about the little girl who was adopted by her uncle or something, and to get.
No, I haven't seen that yet. I've heard a lot of good about that though. Yeah.
Yes, it was a very nice presented show in just 11 episodes, and although it doesn't cover the whole manga it is based upon, it is just slice of life around the little girl and the guy who adopts her, and it seems so simple. But they did it so nicely, they presented it so nicely with the atmosphere and then the very simple slice of life, and it's quite realistic for the whole issue it's trying to deal with.
Okay.
How a little girl scared without any parents trying to live in a total new house with total new strangers and go to school and makes new friends. It is presented without any bullshit, almost any bullshit. There's practically no explanation how he adopted her just by taking her home, that's for sure. But I'm telling you, the whole show is so realistic, and it's not even based on some sort of a hook. It doesn't have fan service. It's not trying to be too moe. It is not trying to be too fun catering. It's not trying to, have magic or superpowers or plot twists. It is basically what it is, and this is if you think about it, this is exactly the hook of moe shows in general. They're going so easy, and they're showing so little. They cannot screw up with whatever they're gonna do. It's just the most basic thing presented in the most basic way, so it cannot fail no matter what happens. This is what makes moe shows successful. But in this case, it's not even a moe show. It's just a very basic slice of life with no bullshit. And
it sounds really short and sweet.
Yes.
So I think I might check that out as well.
Yes, and if you know what happens in the manga, the ending is like, holy smokes, and people say,
all right, don't spoil it for
I'm not
us now.
spoiling, I'm not saying they did not deliberately animate it. The ending of the manga is going to be, holy smokes. I'm not going to say anymore.
Okay, well, any more, and then after that, I want you to, all right, one more. Got one. Actually, there's one that I was talking to you about a couple months ago that I kind of disagree with you about, just because I didn't like the way it ended. It was, I think Kaiji. It started in 2000. Didn't it start in 2011 though, or 10?
Don't remember.
Well, Kaiji, yeah, I really, really liked Kaiji up until the second season. The where it focused on that last incident for way too long. But
okay, I know that many guys keep on saying the same thing, but let's try to say it this way. First of all, it was following the manga. In the manga, it did not feel like it was stretched out just because you were reading it for so many chapters. It was really gripping. But when you see it on TV format, the feeling is not the same because you're always stopping every 20 minutes, and you're supposed to see this on a weekly basis. It's not the same thing. You were supposed to marathon the whole thing at once. And after sitting down to marathon, how many episodes was it? Like 16?
Both 26. They were both 26.
Yes, I'm saying that last.
Oh, you're seeing it as a one whole. Yeah. Okay,
if you just sit down and marathon the whole thing without even watching the opening and ending sequences, if you just see the cut version with just one big marathon non-stop, you would say, holy smoke, now this is tension. This is the problem with TV shows. They always stop and they always keep on having this preview and then the opening and the ending. And it's stopping you from having attention being maintained.
Well, you know what? I think in season 1, I understand what you're saying, but even Kaiji was all right. The pacing was good. Even though, like you said, it would have been better if you missed out the ending and opening because of the format of the story and what the situation is very continuous. But like you said, if it's faithful to the manga I understand that, but it's a pitiful mistake really to make. You should realize that you can't drag out one particular scene for 6 or 7 episodes. You know, it's ridiculous. I mean, come on, man. That's why you got directors there. But, and that's why you use filler. if that was the case, it should have been shorter and there should have been a mini game before that. But you know what? Anyway, I don't want to argue about this too much.
Yes,
But look,
what I'm gonna say is I agree that the first season was a lot more variable. It has more things going on in it. It had more games. It had more people doing different things in each arc. Whereas the second one was just two big arcs, and that's it. There was nothing else to it, and nobody technically died in those situations. So it didn't even have a small finishing arc to just say things are differently. I understand what you mean. It seems a lot less complicated, but I'm telling you, if this was a movie, not a series.
Which it is. Haven't you seen as a live action movie of this?
Oh, I'm not going to that bullshit. Everybody's
that looks terrible.
I was talking about the anime. If it was an anime format.
Sorry.
It was the same guy who played Light in Death Note, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
Forget it. Everybody's a Bichon in those movies. I hate that. Kaiji is supposed to be this ugly dude with a huge nose. I don't want to see that in any live action.
Yeah, sorry people. I know listeners probably got lost. Basically, they turned one of the animes we're talking about into a live action movie, and it's just when a lot of I think Gantz. I don't know if you saw the Gantz wasn't bad. The live action version of Gantz wasn't bad, but
yes, I agree to that. But it didn't exactly change anything. I mean, okay, the plot was different, but it didn't change the overall feeling, and the characters were already rather beautiful to begin with. So
True.
It didn't change something drastically. You cannot just change the artwork of Kaiji, this unique thing, and change it with a Bishonen stuff doing normal stuff in some movie. So it's basically to do with aesthetics. You cannot just take something which looks so different and paste it on something which live action.
It's true. All right, let's move on. Is there any terrible, the worst anime 2011? What's just the worst anime that maybe everyone was hyping up, which you cannot fathom why people was loving this anime?
Oh, that's so easy. It's those JC stuff, final seasons of Shana. And then the other one, what was it called again?
Don't say Blue Exorcist, because everyone loved Blue Exorcist.
I have no idea. The final season of Shana and the other piece of shit they made by the same company.
I hated the second season of Shana. I didn't even like the second season, so I didn't watch the third, so no.
Oh yes, Familiar of Zero no Tsukaima, that final season too. Those two were hyped so much just for being the final seasons of some piss poor shitty franchise I don't care about. And it was the biggest failure of the whole year. But then again, I can also mention all those Noitanima shows they kept on making. And I don't remember which ones were made in 2011. But basically, every single Noitanima show, besides, of course, Usagi Drop, which has science fiction inside it, is terrible. It's horrible. It's unwatchable. I'm talking about, say, the power of money and public control, whatever the hell it was called. I'm talking about Fractal. I'm talking about Ango. What the hell is going on in those shows? Science fiction and Noitanima don't go together. Forget it. No way, man. Surely.
All right, man. Well, let's fast forward and welcome to 2012, Roricon. What have you seen in 2012 that's caught your eye? Anything? Anything good?
Silence. Okay. Basically, the only show which has attracted my eye for a while, but not for too long, is the new prequel series of Lupin the Third. That's the only series which I fully enjoyed for what it is. If you don't know it, Lupin the Third is the first action-adventure anime ever made back in the 70s. It has received endless amounts of movies and overs over the years, but none of them were exactly any particular special thing after a while. It's so repetitive. It's like the same mission again and again, just with different faces in different areas. It had no variety. It was very boring. But this particular series went very artistic about it. I mean, if you see the opening, you say, is this really an opening? And you see all these fine art, weird poems going on, those flashy stuff. And yes, there's a lot of new too. But that's not the issue. It's so artistic. The animation is so special. The visual effects and stuff. Okay, the plots is one of the same old stuff, Lupin the Third. But even the storyline, it's supposed to be a prequel. The very first cases where Lupin meets the rest of the gang, which were always a team since the very beginning, and we had no idea how exactly they met. They even tried to flesh that thing too. It has a sort of very thin plot continuity. Nothing much, but it's better than nothing. So it's both artistic. It has some sort of plot continuity. it is going. It has this retro feeling, which is very rare in our days, and it doesn't try to be mainstream in any sort of way. And yes, it has a lot of nudity, if that's what you like. And it's also sane in level almost. It has mature dialogues. It has a lot of violence. So I like it for what it is.
No, I've only seen 4 Lupin movies. The Castle Kangaroo List Go, Get Back the Diamond. There's so many. I can't remember the names of them. But
seriously, man, most people have only watched the Miyazaki movie, Castle of Cagliostro.
Yeah, Castle of Cagliostro.
It's so misleading because Miyazaki presented it in such a childish way. I have nothing against that movie, but it's so childish compared to the dark, violent, sexy, erotic mess that was really Lupin the Third. So I don't want most people to think that by watching Castle of Cagliostro they know what Lupin the Third actually is. Most people only know that movie, and it's really sad because it's just a very watered down for the family version of what it really is. So when we're talking about this here, this is practically the only title that attracted my eye, and even that eventually got tiresome in the middle way because, okay, there's not much exactly going on. The art part is fantastic, but that's it. There's not exactly any story. The action is over the top. It's just fancy shootouts and improbable things happening all the time. I don't expect it to see something else happening. That's, of course, that transvestite inside has some sort of transvestite turns out to have some sort of a conspiracy going on. It's going to escalate to something. I'm not sure. If it comes something quite epic towards the end, I'm just going to have a much better impression towards it. But for now, it's the only show which I appreciate from 2012.
So how many episodes is it, by the way?
I think it's just going to be 12. I don't think it's going to be any more. Or at least that's how I remember it being. So at the beginning of the year, I thought that 2 interesting titles would be the Berserk movies, which ended up being too crude for me to like, and they don't exactly add anything else.
That's right.
And it was also the Z-Man adaptation. I have never read the manga, but they just showed me a few pictures from it, and I say, oh, if they keep it so realistic and dark, it's going to be awesome. And it ended up being some sort of a Naruto version, watered down and stupid and rushed, and everybody talks like it's a retard. And say, this is not the dark, depressing thing I was expecting. And I have watched lots of similar shows, which are a lot more interesting. I mean, Guyver, back in the 80s, not the newer version from the 90s, blah, that was horrible.
Oh, thank you. You know, I wrote a review about it and got flamed on Mal because I hated the new version of Guyver. I'm a Guyver fanboy. They totally censored it. I appreciated that they followed the manga, even though the manga is never ending.
Never ending manga.
Never ending manga.
It goes and new stuff happen.
Did they do 1 chapter a year or something? Oh, yes. Jesus. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I really didn't like this new version, mostly because of the aesthetics. It looked terrible. How can the early 90s version look better than this one?
I have no idea.
The story's fine. I like the story in Guyver, but I can accredit that to the manga more than the anime anyway. So, but again, they couldn't finish it off. They didn't even go very far. Not much further than the original OVA stopped. Sure. And then, it ended on I wouldn't even say a cliffhanger, really. I've read some of the manga just because I wanted to know what happened. And, just so much swapping of that mega suit between Guyver 1 and Guyver 3 and all this other stuff. I don't want to say anymore, but I'm very disappointed. I don't think that manga's going anywhere storyline-wise,
yes,
and it's a shame.
It's the same thing that happens with most ongoing shows. They have a very nice idea. They just stretch it on and on and on, and eventually, not even the author knows what he's doing anymore. He's just kicking around just for the heck of it. So I don't like it either. But anyways, I was technically saying that Guyver is so much cool to watch in the OVA version, not the TV version, and Z-Man is this dried-up dead thing, which has, of course, very nice artwork, not even animation. It's so rushed. Everybody keeps on saying they're taking out everything that has to do with fleshing out the setting and the characters. It's horrible. It's just going to be 12 episodes of nothingness. Just imagine that they said that the first episode alone crammed together like 16 chapters from the manga. 16 chapters in just one episode. It's like they didn't show anything.
Oh, that episode must have been 4 hours, right?
It was a typical episode, man. It should have been
20 minutes.
Oh, it should be a movie of its own. It was nothing, man. It's a dried up dead version. And I don't even like the main theme. I mean, it was supposed to be this old-fashioned ballad or whatever. It's terrible. It's horrible. Why are you doing this? Guyver is so much awesome. Forget Guyver. What about Tekkaman? Why did you make it like Tekkaman?
Well, there you have it. I know that people listening, Rory is a very critical guy, but I tend to side with him more than I don't. And from what I've seen in 2012, there is no standout title, which is a shame. So, all I can ask you, because we're going to wrap up this podcast now.
Already?
Yeah, we have to. We have to give the people a break. You got to leave
maybe
them
next time we're gonna marathon the whole thing in 24 hours or something.
But yeah, basically, I know we've all got the gist of what you're going to say now, but I just have to ask, what do you think of the anime industry right now as it stands? With the whole crisis of the no more DVD sales, about 4 companies shutting down last year, and now where do you think it stands? What do you see the future of anime right now?
Very grim, but then again, that's exactly what makes it so cherishable back in the days when not every one of us had an internet, a very fast line to just download everything. I'm not saying I agree with SOPA and HOPA and what the hell they call those companies that intend to have total control of what the hell is downloaded on the internet. I'm just saying that it was a lot more thrilling back in the days when we couldn't have so much easy access to every new anime that was coming out. It was also a lot more thrilling when we didn't had 200 titles coming out every year. It was a lot better when we had 50 coming out every year because on an average they had a better budget and attention given on each one of them. Right now we have a director doing 4 shows at the same time. Now, how is he possibly going to focus enough on each one of them to make something good out of it? And even the directors and the producers themselves saying this is not going to sell. Most of them are just going to download it for free. And it's not going to pay back its money, so why bother? I'm just making this to keep on paying my employers. This is technically what is deciding part. They make now anime not because they want to make something good or something to sell. They make shows just because they don't want to fire everybody and increase the unemployment. This is the deciding part. So I just hope that in the future there will be a lot less titles coming out every year. Not all of them will be fan service and lolicons and moes and bullshit. It's going to be a few more serious shows about it. And we're not going to be able to download them. Seriously, man, I enjoy fully how I can just watch an episode few hours after it's coming out in Japan. But surely this is killing anime as much as it enjoys me. And it's not good. I'd rather have 20 good titles coming out every year. Okay, not good. Maybe watchable. I'm just going to say watchable. 20 watchable shows coming out every year, not being able to download them for any possible reason, and having enough money to buy them. Of course, right now we are all like one step away from bankruptcy, so...
Let me ask you something. I think there's 2 things I think, because now anime on DVD is being crushed. Funimation is the only American... I think there's 2 more. It's the main American distributor for anime left. It's Pioneer, Bandai, they're all gone now. So I'm thinking... Online, I don't want to talk about Crunchyroll or anything because the anime they have is not really great, well, that's an understatement. But what do you think of subscription-based anime services? What if you can get all your anime online, you only have to pay $5 a month?
What can you gain by $5 a month? Nothing.
Well, that's not for you to... I'm just saying, putting that to you. Don't worry about them and how that's going to help the anime. I'm just saying, something's better than nothing because right now, the majority of people are watching anime for free. So if you could, would you pay that subscription to watch anime?
Yes.
Do you think that's a good solution?
Yes, but it's not a good solution because $5 every month is still nothing. To make a show $5 a month, it's gonna take years to pay back the expenses for making it. This is exactly what I'm saying. That it should be a lot more strict than that. Unfortunately, piracy, as cool as it is killing. I mean, it's very good at distributing information for free. Look at me. I'm not being paid to make reviews. But eventually, I'm just criticizing something which the industry doesn't care about because the industry is just looking at numbers and saying, I don't care what this guy thinks or how he criticizes things. I'm just saying what sells. I'm just going to make something similar to what sells. Whatever sells, because they're so desperate, they're just going to go, for the fan service title since this is the only ones which eventually offer the most. They are so cheap to produce and they easily pay back their expenses with profit as well. So... yeah. I'm just saying, man, as much as I enjoy this whole thing, downloading everything for free, and as much as I appreciate internet distributing them for free, eventually it's going to kill the medium. That's the saddest part of them all. Eventually we have to stop doing it, even by force, and just pay for the damn thing. If we cannot pay for the damn thing, just hype everything to the moon like it was 20 years ago when we couldn't just get access to all the shows and say, I watched the show because I bought the DVDs and it's like awesome. And I have no idea what it's all going to be about because I haven't watched it and I have no access to it. Those were the great days, man. Back in the 90s, we had no idea what each show is going to be. We didn't have all these sites explaining everything. We didn't have so much easy access on YouTube and torrent sites and stuff. We were just going to pour in the, not even the DVD. It was CDs for me. I began watching anime through CDs. So we just pour in this little baby. It's going to have this crude, bad quality, and we're going to understand what is going on from all the grainy images. And we say, whoa, what is going on in this anime? I have no idea. Not even the stereotypes were established back 10 years ago. Now we have all these sites gripping them with tags and categories and genres and say, this is a rehash of that, a rehash, and recommend that, and this was done better before, blah, 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 and stuff like that. So I really miss those days when it was so hard to get your hands on one show. Because if you had only one show to watch, you would watch it, man, up all the way to the end, and you would still enjoy it more because you only had one show to watch. But today it's just like, I was bored, I was watching a few anime, none of them was interesting, and all of a sudden I bumped into this shock value full of fan service and killings and stuff. That's how people think today. They're so bored because they have so much easy access to many anime. I don't like that. I appreciate what the internet is doing, but this is killing what I love. Sadly.
No.
So if you ask me, a very utopian solution would be if the government is funding anime. The government, not companies. And all the profits are coming out from what you say, like accounts, $5 a month or even more. So it's not going to be every casual out there who's just going to pay $5 and leave, watch everything, or even rip everything if possible, and then leave with just $5. If it's going to be $10, if it's going to be $10 with its top tier security, which is not going to be unbreakable, yeah, right, utopian.
Well, that's a fantasy, man. The only, my hope, believe it or not, and I hate putting my hopes here, it has to be America. It has to be Hollywood, really. Someone has to take anime seriously, and they need to make... I think what's going to help the industry is some Hollywood director making a good anime movie, whether it's Akira or something.
And sure, I know it's not going to be like the Dragon Ball evolution. Oh, God.
No, someone. And I believe in... Not our generation, because me and you were like in the same decade, born the same decade, but 2 generations, the people that are watching anime growing up on now, when they become directors, they will take the manga seriously and write up a good script and do a good anime movie. All these Hollywoods, these 50 plus, 40 plus Spielbergs and all these people now, they don't know anime, they don't care about anime, and that's why you get shit anime movies. Once Hollywood's interested in, they make a good one, that's what they jump on a bandwagon. Like right now, the bandwagon in Hollywood is vampires, teenage angst, fairy tales, and trilogies. That's what sells. There's a lot of great anime titles that could be Americanized, but it needs attention, needs the right director. And obviously, I think that America has to put more money into anime because Japan's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen in Japan. And Japan they have a really bad relationship with, how they want to source out their money for certain things, especially with the Western audiences. So I don't think it's going to work out that way. It has to be America. And unfortunately, I would say it will be another 10 or 20 years before anime starts seeing a lot of money, really. I don't think the industry is going to excel anytime any soon. It's just going to get worse.
It's close to the bottom if you talk about 2012 so far. But at this point, I would like to point out what came out this year, which is also made in America, and it does feel like an anime. And I'm talking about the second season of Avatar.
I know of Avatar, yeah, Legend of Korra.
This is a fantastic show from what I've seen so far. I've seen the first show, and it's improving the formula on every section possible, and I really hope it's gonna keep on being so quality material. I still see it has many childish concepts in it. I'm just saying that for a cartoon, it is amazing. It's by far the best cartoon I've ever.
This is my point. You're proving my point. The Americans need to get more exposure to anime through shows that's like a gateway show to watch anime, if you ask me, really. I mean, when I first saw the first Avatar, I kind of felt they were ripping on anime, but I saw that it wasn't ripping as much as it was paying homage to. So I thought, okay, we don't need to talk about the live action movie. That was terrible. But the series, I mean, it's okay. But again, I know someone will say, "Oh, what about Marvel?" And then no. The Marvel animes, they've not been good. What I've seen, they've not been good. So
I only like the X-Men from the 90s. Everybody else that makes some sort of a Marvel adaptation feels so childish. The animation is terrible. I also appreciate a lot what Forces Studio is doing with most recent remakes. They made a remake of Transformers. They made a remake of Thundercats. And it's Japanese studio working in America, and it looks so nice. I'm not saying it's great, but it looks so damn nice. And back in the 80s, the best cartoons were made by the Japanese.
Exactly.
It's the same thing what you're talking about. It's Japanese going to work in America with high budgets and a huge audience which is willing to pay for it.
That's the future of anime. It's America. As much as I hate to admit it, America, they don't even see that all the best animations come from Japan. Really. It's all most of the, as you've written in your History of Anime blog, a lot of it was outsourcing in the early 50s, 60s anyway. They were outsourcing to Japanese. 60% of people, here's a statistic, a real life statistic. 60% of the world's animation comes from Japan, A lot of it is outsourcing, fair enough. But the Japanese, one of their main industries is Japanese anime, all right? So they make a lot more animation than any other country in the world, obviously. And that's not even the American animation is almost always based on comedy in a TV sitcom style.
Yes.
AKA Family Guy or American
Ben
Dad
10.
Or South Park or Ben 10. No, even those ones are better, to be honest with you. Better than the TV sitcom like The Simpsons, Family Guy, Futurama, blah, 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 blah. But the future of animation is anime, I believe. I love all animation. I'm just biased for Japanese animation because they do more with it.
Yes, but at this point, I would like to address something which is not easy to understand if you are not exactly living in Japan. The reason Japan is making the most animated shows in the world, which you can easily see if you just move to the Wikipedia article. They have a Wikipedia article called "Animated Shows of Every Year Possible," and you're going to see that the average is like 60% or 70% of them Japanese every year. And the rest of them most of the rest of them are from America, and very few from some Balkan countries and stuff. So basically, the reason Japan specifically makes the most animated shows is because they do not have the budgets to make them into live action series. Let's say they will never have enough action. They will never have enough budgets to make an action series of the Game of Thrones. They would rather make it an animated show, which will cost a lot less, than make it with live action actors and stuff. So for the Japanese, animation is equal to America, to a very good live action show with actors. So it basically has to do with the budgets. It's always a lot cheaper to make it by animating it. And this does not exactly prove that just because they're doing everything mostly of what they're watching in an animated form, it's better. It's just they don't have the budgets to do it with live action. So I think that, yes, once again, America has the budgets to do that and can help a lot in this regard. But as long as other shows, cartoons, outsell anime, as pathetic as they are, I mean, I'm talking about Ben 10 level here, episodic nonsense and stuff, most humor. I have nothing against parodies of the sort of Family Guy and The Simpsons. This guy... Neither do I. Yes, I'm just saying that those are criticizing everyday life in any possible way. I'm not just saying they're not exactly doing anything with it by having a plot. I really want to see them trying to do something a bit more complicating. I surely do.
So do I. I have nothing against Americans. I love animation in general. You know what I mean? I even love Disney stuff, to be honest with you, but I like stories, more complex stories, and Japanese, they use animation to, they integrate it with these great stories. And if the Americans did that more, I would probably watch more cartoons, but they don't. It's as simple as that.
They have no variety. That comes down to it. Every single show that comes out is a lot more similar to what's going on with anime. And of course, we can say that anime look very much alike, but they still have a dozen different categories. Cartoons only have one or two at best. This is the problem. Yeah, exactly. You get much easier bored with cartoons than you do with anime, just because they have no variety in them. So as long as we have another collaboration like what we were doing back in the 80s, the original Thundercats, the original Transformers, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, those were great. just because they're a collaboration. That's all it takes. And Japan can profit out of it. Americans can profit out of it. It's just that we must take out all those shows that don't sell too much. And unfortunately, all those kiddie shows like Gromit and something like Totally Spies.
Yeah.
Those kid stuff, as long as those things sell and the kids don't mind, this is not going to happen. Then we're never going to appreciate the more complicated stories of anime. And we have all those stupid morality committees saying, oh, it's too violent for television. I just want to watch it down anyway. So I'm not exactly thrilled to have some manga which is very violent and dark being animated into something totally childish just because it's supposed to be made in America. This is exactly the problem. When you make it in Japan, as low production it's going to be, at least it's going to be dark and depressing, a lot closer to the original. You make it in America and you have those stupid comedies in the way, it's just going to make it so, So we have to we have to fix those small problems, kill everyone who's been too much of a Puritanist, and then stop making those childish shows which sell too much anyways. And please stop making more Pokemon. Enough of it.
You would upset my nephew if they ended Pokemon. So Pokemon must continue.
Your nephew needs to grow up. And so does Ash.
He will grow up and Pokemon will still be there.
And Ash will still be 10 years old. Oh, God.
You're telling me. Anyway, Roricon, we got to end this podcast, man. It's over 2 hours and a half now, man. And you're making me... I'm fearing this edit. Right now.
I'm going to cry.
Yeah, you ain't going to cry. You're going to sit there and wait while I mash up this episode and put it out there. But you know what, man? People, their main complaint the first time we podcasted together was that it was too short. Now I think they got a good idea of what you're about, and hopefully I answered a lot of the questions. We rambled, we went on a tangent, we spoke about hates, likes, blah 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 blah, and hopefully, Rory, you get back on Mal. You can put your reviews back on there. But for the record, where can we find your reviews now? Where's the best place for us to go to get your reviews and blogs?
My full list is still on AniDB, since that was my first site, and since I'm not banned there, I have included them all there up to date since today. The second site, which I recently began like 6 months ago, is Anime Planet, but I haven't added all my reviews there, so you're not going to find too many of them over there.
Are you doing your newer ones there, though? Are you just keeping your newer ones on Anime Planet?
No, I'm just taking them alphabetically when I'm not bored. I'm making a small rehash to see what I can fix after 2 years of reading every review. I always have some differences I want to fix, like changing the format to feel a bit more fluent and stuff. So it takes a lot more time than it appears. I'm not just copy-pasting everything on Anime Planet.
I commend you, man. You really are a very passionate writer. You're a passionate reviewer. You got a different opinion, and I really appreciate that, man. I know people paint you as a bad guy, but you're not that much of a bad guy.
I'm a shonen hero.
You're a bit delusional, but you're not a bad guy. But yeah, man, I really hope we get on the podcast next time, man. It was too long, man. It was too long, but obviously that was down to me as well. I'm a very busy guy. I'm working with a lot of different people. We try to keep it interesting here on Dreamcast, but yeah, man, it was really nice having you on the show again, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to get on the mic with me.
I really like talking about myself as well. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right, people. This has been another episode of Downright Everything Anime Manga. You can catch Roriconfan on AniDB. I'm going to put a link to his blog on the post. You can catch him on Mal, his older stuff, and people still post there. Hopefully, you'll be reinstated sooner or later.
If the mods listen to this podcast and say, okay, let's give him another chance, the 10th one in a row, and he's not talking to everybody anymore, I think I'm going to do that, because after 10 times, even I'm going to stop commenting on people's profiles about their reviews. They don't like it, okay? Understand? Jesus.
They've worn you down now. They've worn you down. All right, people, if you want to email us again, the email is planettyro@gmail.com. That's planettyro with 2 T's. And that's about it, Roricon. So on that note,
let me just remind you that if you want to talk with me, you can find me on Skype, and my account is Roriconfan1. If you just find my account there, just add me and talk with me in person.
You see, he's open to all sorts of rants, arguments, discussions, and whatnot, criticism.
And no agreements, please. It's not fun having an agreement.